please.
All right, the time is now 5 o'clock, and I will call the, May 27th, 2025 FedRAC meeting to order. For the record, I'm Paul McDaniel. I'll be chairing today's FedRAC meeting. To my left is Councilmember Dovey, who will also be on the committee. To my right is Councilmember Honda. I also have to my left Council President Kochmar and Councilmember Walsh. Do we have any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Okay, then we'll move on to committee business. Item A, approval of the summary minutes from April 2025.
I move adoption.
I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That's a quick one. Moving on to the next one then. B, Tourism Enhancement Grant, $150,000 support of Performing Arts and Events Center.
Thank you, Chair. Steve Groom, Finance Director. I asked to be able to present this because I'd like to frame this largely as a budget issue. John Hutton, Parks Director, and Autumn Gressett are both here in case I miss any of the finer points. In the 2023 and 4 biennium, the city used to subsidize the Performing Arts Center to about the amount of $1 million, rounding, if you'll forgive me. In the current biennium, we dropped the general fund funding of the Performing Arts Center down to $700,000 per year in both years, and we asked to fill it with lodging tax, $150,000 per year, and that's the item that we are discussing here on the agenda. Now, the process is twofold. First, we go to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. That's a balanced mix of tax collectors and recipients, hoteliers, and the recipients would keep each other honest on who is legitimately applying for a good use of lodging tax. So we did take our budget and we asked LTAC to review and comment. They did, said they green-lighted it, and you as City Council approved the budget with this $150,000 in it. Second step was to go ahead and execute on it. We do that by using a tourism enhancement grant process. Lodging tax approved that, and City Council can only approve within the recipients and the dollar amounts that LTAC recommends. However, City Council, when we brought it to City Council, the vote was a 3-3 tie. It failed. So we went back to LTAC. The process is to start from the beginning. And Lodging Tax did, again, recommend the $150,000 support of the Performing Arts Center. Now, why would they do that? Here's where I'm channeling Autumn Gressett, because this is all material you have seen regularly on her slide. The Performing Arts Center is a partner in the community with the hoteliers, with the tourism community. They partner on tourism boards. They're on social media campaigns. They're working hand in hand. They even participate in packages in which the Performing Arts Center is a component. And they're a legitimate piece of promoting Federal Way as a city, as a destination and a regional attraction. Now, the mayor refers to the Performing Arts Center as the city's marquee facility. The next three bullets I would like to claim, because I think the Performing Arts Center is prominent in Federal Way's downtown center retail district. And oh, am I a fan of our retail district, because I want those businesses to thrive. When they thrive, our budget sees the sales tax. Not only that, though, I think when the city built the Performing Arts Center, it really created an iconic image, and it contributes to the overall sales tax, lodging tax, property values, real estate excise tax. It adds to the city that we want to live and work in. And it's the single biggest investment in the city's regional brand. And I have to give credit to Jason Gerwin. I said, I wish I could come up with a great tagline. And he said, it's our Space Needle. I love that. And the conversation it came up in is because I was eating over at Chick-fil-A, and the guy on the right, that's the owner-operator. That is Ryan Powell. And I said, I'm the city finance director. Can I ask you why you have a poster on your wall here in Federal Way that says, hey, Seattle, eat more chicken, and it has the Space Needle? our Performing Arts Center, can you tell I'm a big fan? So I just say that to say this. In order to help out our general fund budget, if we don't do this, then the general fund is going to have to cut something else and then subsidize to make up the difference. This is just a request approval of the Tourism Enhancement Grant that's already in the budget. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dobie?
I just have one comment.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to recommend we vote for this. But in future budgets, instead of saying we're cutting the price from $1 million to $750 or $800, why don't we just call it what it is? We're taking the LTAC money and putting it over there because that money can go there instead of coming out of the general fund. I mean, that's why I voted against it last time. I think it was 3-3.
Well,
I just honestly, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a great deal. We should spend our money on our city to bring people in. But let's just make sure we tell everybody what it really is, how we're doing it.
I was trying to be true to the exact language in the RCWs that says when the city proposes a change in the use of lodging tax, we need to go to LTAC and ask their review. I can see your point.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be crazy not to spend the money on our own city and our own people and our own benefit for what we do. But again,
Certainly.
a little better transparency would, in my opinion.
I would not propose a change in future years. Now that we're doing this, I think it's a fine idea.
It's, again, another comment. It's built, it's here, let's make it the best it can be. It's not gonna come out of our budget for a long time unless, some disaster happens and City Hall falls into a sinkhole or something. So we might as well just know we're gonna spend the money forever. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So it's still subsidizing the PAC budget, even though it's not from the general budget?
The general fund in the current budget subsidizes the Performing Arts Center by $700,000. And then,
And the LTAC money is still a subsidy in
Yes.
in its own right. I think that we need to still use those words. So, over the years, we've always been told that LTAC money can only be spent on heads and beds, and that counts. And so this is certainly a different use. If somebody, let's say one of the performing art groups wanted funding from LTAC and they're not putting heads in beds, could they also potentially get funding from LTAC?
there's a very specific section where lodging tax can be used for. It can be used for tourism marketing. It can be used for the marketing and operation of special events and festivals designed to attract tourists. But it can also be used for supporting the operations and capital expenditures of tourism-related facilities owned by a municipality, and that is exactly what the Performing Arts Center is. So it qualifies by definition. It strays from the heads and beds, which is a great phrase. It's an excellent, because, of course, lodging tax does have a restricted sense to it because that's where it comes from. So we're adhering to the RCWs exactly. Other organizations would not be a facility, a tourism-related facility owned by a municipality. They would have to qualify under heads and beds in that, under another category.
So for the Arts Explosion, they're bringing people in from last year we had people from California and Canada were here. They were not able to get an LTAC grant last year. So they're certainly bringing in tourists. So then they could qualify under this.
And our mechanism, before they can come to city council, they have to go to the lodging tax, which again has hoteliers that collect the tax and then recipients that can judge their competitors, because that's the group that has to approve or qualify. Are the heads and beds being brought in by something sufficient? Are the activities that they're doing something that really, that they want to endorse and bring to you? And if the lodging tax approves a recipient to a dollar amount, then that brings it under your purview so that you can further approve the use of the lodging tax. Because again, it's a city-imposed tax, so you have to vote on it as well.
And how much money is in there now, do you know? I could look into that, but,
It brings in $300,000 a year. It's actually a touch above that. We budgeted $314,000 this year, if I recall. And it's got an accumulated fund balance close to
Right.
$2 million.
okay, thank you.
President Kochmar?
Well, it appear, in Snohomish County, they have a tax that they use, a stadium tax, I forgot what they call it. But we can't use ours because it's already taken up by the, we used to call it the Kingdom now,
Yeah.
arena. But,
Yeah, we had that in Yakima as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's connected with lodging tax. It has to go through LTAC, yeah.
Yeah, so this to me is, the same thing. And I can't think of it, well, in the past, we've used LTAC for people to come golf at Twin Lakes, which to me never seemed to make a lot of sense, but this makes perfect sense.
Tournaments, sports tournaments, even the ones that our parks use on our ball fields, is sports tourism when you have tournaments, then you have out of town teams.
Sorry, if I could add, just what President Kochmar was saying, it's actually the exact same section that authorized that special purpose district is what you were talking about. That's the last part of the sentence that Mr. Groom didn't finish reading. So it's exactly the same authorization.
Thank you. I was delving into RCWs, which really is better referred to by the city attorney. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So my question on this one, and actually a couple comments. So when this first came, I also was against it because of the way it came across from marketing. I did read through the RCW and see that little fine point that some city official or government official stuck in there to make sure they could reap the benefits of the taxing. Now that we do this, and is this is this for 1 year, is this for 2 years, or what is the current time frame for this LTAC approval?
We approved a budget for 2 years. This application is for 1 year. I believe we'll need to do this again next year.
Okay, so this is going to be for strictly the 1 year at the moment. And if I read correctly, this is not for marketing, it's not for anything. The request was rewritten to be strictly to be used for the facility maintenance and upkeep of the thing.
This is to make whole the performing arts budget on what it has been doing in the past. Same.
I get what you're saying, but I'm not looking at making a budget whole. I'm looking at what the utilization for the funds were. And it's going to go into their general fund, but the purpose is that it's because it's owned by the city. It's owned by the city, and because it's a city piece of,
This was one of my budget balancing measures. If we don't use the $150,000 from lodging tax, then in order to make the Performing Arts Center budget whole, the general fund will have to, and that would be an additional expense on the general fund.
I'll leave that for a later conversation. Understood on that one. One of my questions we're going to have then is, by this 150 going in, does this provide less stress on the Performing Arts Center for future MOUs that we've done in the past, since I know those are coming back up for some of the events that we've done there?
This does not alleviate the pressure of the MOUs or the cost that is associated with the resident arts groups. We will still continue to seek grants, and we still continue to have that conversation because it is a shortfall that we're having to, on a monthly and sort of annual basis, look at how we make that whole.
What would that shortfall be right now? Just if this goes through and get the 150, that gets added, you got to 750. What would the shortfall be that you guys would need to cover for the MOUs to be a practical application or a
The budget
possibility?
for the MOU sits at about $130,000. We do our best to maximize the usage time, so that way some of those costs can be shared across other events that we have that are revenue generating. But overall, the budget that we put together and with the grants that we're writing is about $130,000 a year. I could pull exact numbers for the rest of this year for a true shortfall, but off the top of my head, I don't know where we landed yet.
So we don't have so on the 130, do we have, let's say, 60 put towards it, or anything that we have
We
to
have
put aside?
30,000 put towards it
Okay.
from the For Culture Sustained Support Grant, and we have several other grants in through our Arts Foundation that we have second callbacks for.
Well, that's better than zero, so it's a starting point.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Paul, I'd like to maybe make a suggestion. so this doesn't have to come up next year. We know it's 150,000 short.
Yeah.
Why don't we just make this a 2-year budget, just like we did, and make the amendment that we do this for 25 and 26, so we can't do that?
LTAC.
No, it needs to go through LTAC first, and
Okay.
LTAC only approved 1 year.
Can
So
it go-
in the future, that'd be a better way to do it.
Could it go through LTAC like next month, so we can deal with this, so we don't have to deal with it again in 2026?
Is LTAC meeting?
I mean, they got to meet sometime this year.
I see. Ms.
See a Walker.
looking up.
I would happy to bring it at the very next opportunity. I think I've proven I'm a partner, and Autumn and I can get along, and
Could we do
I'm
that for
pretty
economic
familiar with
development?
Yeah, I mean,
I see Ms. Neal standing. Do we know if there's going to be an LTAC meeting anytime soon?
it meets the second, you know what? The second Wednesday of every month?
Yeah, so there is an LTAC meeting scheduled in June, and I believe that one will be happening because there are some items to discuss on that agenda.
All right, is that something, Autumn, that's doable?
Absolutely, I can take 2026 through. Our intent had been this fall, but I'm happy to do it
I
sooner.
mean, yeah, it just seems to me, we know it's going to be there in 2026. Let's save some time. We'll make, so we have some stability,
Yeah.
and maybe you can bring it through LTAC and come back here in a couple months so we can vote on it. You okay with that, Paul?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay.
You've approved the budget, it makes a lot of sense.
We already approved the budget, so
Yeah.
let's not go through the hassle next time.
Appreciate your support.
Okay, can I make a motion?
Yeah, that was easy.
Okay, gotta turn my phone on here. Yeah, I move to forward the proposed tourism enhancement grant recommendation for the Performing Arts Center operational support 2025 to the June 3rd, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to topic C, Children's Dance Theater Camp Recreation Agreement.
Good evening, everybody. Cassie Swan, Arts and Events Coordinator. I am here tonight to seek your support and approval for the agreement with Children's Dance Theater, who has been a partner with us for over 10 years in providing great theater camps, musical theater camps for our community, for the youth in our community. So basically, what I would love approval on is the ability to pay Children's Dance Theater up to $50,000 for the year based on the capacity that Stephanie, the owner, has been able to achieve in each of her camps. She used to only take maybe 20 kids, and now she can take up to 60 kids because she's just grown her business, which means that as a contractor, our agreement with her would go up to 50,000, just depending on how many kids register. So there's 2 camps for each summer. One of them is geared towards children ages 7 to 12, and then there's also one in August, and that one is geared toward 13 to 18-year-olds. So a great opportunity for the teens in our community.
Gotcha. You have a question?
Yeah, a couple clarifying questions. We don't market this other than the person putting on the camp is the one who goes out and sells the memberships or the people to go to it, correct? Is that how it works?
It's promoted through our summer catalog.
Right, well, we promote that, but we're not, if nobody shows up, we're not paying anything.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. It's strictly based on enrollment. So
And we don't do this type of arrangement with anybody else, do we?
this is a pretty standard agreement with contractors as far as, are you just referring
Well, I mean,
to?
Generally, I mean, we're not charging for the center, we're doing this at Center Stage, correct?
This is actually held at Stephanie's location.
Oh, okay.
For most of
Performances
the
are done.
performances are at
Okay.
Knudsen Family Theater.
Okay, okay. I thought I was at the Knutson all the time. Okay, you answered my question, thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So the contract provides, can you share a little bit more about what exactly the contract is providing for?
So the contract is that Children's Dance Theater offers these theater camps for the summer. They take care of staffing, everything. We help with promotion and we help with registrations, and Stephanie takes care of.
So the children, this is free to the children?
It's not free to children. No, they register. They pay like a fee.
Right?
And so it's a revenue share. So there's, a percentage that the city keeps and then we pay a percentage. It's like a contractor agreement.
And it's at her location.
It is, until they go to Knutson for the performance for the weekend.
And how many children can she have
60 per camp.
in each camp? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, my quick question is, I read through it, so it looks like it's an 80-20 cut, is that how it goes?
Yes.
Okay, and is it on the tuition that they pay, or what is the actual, the reimbursements and the funds, what is that actually attributed to? Is it ticket sales, or is it membership to the camps and the groups that she's part of?
What, can you clarify your question?
Yeah, so there's two parts in my mind. She's got a private piece of property that kids are going to learn how to dance or do a recital at.
Yes.
And then they actually use a city-owned facility to do the actual presentation.
Yes.
There's money involved, but where is the money collected? Is it collected for the?
So we have an agreement to use the theater for the days that they move in. I believe they move in Thursday to the theater. And then they pay, we deduct what that amount is for using the theater space from their revenue.
Okay, but so it's ticket sales only? I guess that'd be the easiest.
Ticket sales she handles directly through her website for the performances.
Gotcha. I'll go with,
Do you know how much tuition is per child?
I do. It is $460 for the Moana for the youth camp, and that's 2 weeks.
$60?
$460.
Oh, 460, I didn't hear the 400.
Yeah, so $230 a week. And then the 9 to 5, which is for the teenagers, that's $575.
That's for 2 weeks too.
Correct.
Does that include costumes and shoes and anything else that they might need?
Yes.
Thanks.
all right, so just to get a clarification, my last one. So I'm trying to understand, I have no problem with moving forward with this, but I'm trying to understand if we're gonna reimburse them for the money, at what point do we collect the money reimbursed if she does ticket sales through her system?
The ticket sales she has just always handled. That's just been ticket sales are handled.
Can I clarify something? So there's registration fees, and then they're charging at the door to watch the show as ticket sales.
Right.
So we're unrelated, we have nothing to do with the ticket sales for the show at the end of the 2-week practice, whatever.
Right.
But the registration fees, I believe the city is collecting.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was looking, thank you.
We remit 80% of those collected fees to her.
Is that the $400 and the $500 for, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, that was the clarity I was looking for, I was getting lost in
Thanks,
what the
Ryan.
money changes.
Make a motion.
Go for it.
Yeah, I move to forward the proposed agreement with the Children's Dance Theater for the Youth Theater Camp to the June 3rd, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to topic D, Police Department Bomb Disposal Unit Grant.
Good evening, council. Casey Jones, Haddon and Family Matter. I know his name is on your agenda. I'm Kyle Sumter, Deputy Chief, and it's my pleasure to summarize, I hope to summarize nearly 100 pages from your packet into the simple topic that this is. And the question before you tonight is, should the Federal Way Police Department accept a portion of a Homeland Security grant for purchase of, in fact, we're not going to purchase it, should we accept a Throwbot from the Seattle Police Department? Now, in summary, the federal government gave the state of Washington Military Department a large grant from the Department of Homeland Security. And the state of Washington gave a large chunk of that to King County Office of Emergency Management. So Washington is a recipient and King County Emergency Management is a subrecipient. And the Seattle Police Department is a subrecipient from King County, and we would be a subrecipient to the Seattle Police Department. There's 80-some pages right there. What we hope to receive is a Throwbot from Recon Robotics. This device is small, it's handheld, it's about this large right here. It weighs a pound or two, and the device would be assigned to our bomb disposal unit. They would throw it into a room where a suspicious package has been reported. The thing rights itself, crawls over to it, looks at it, and it's being driven remotely. It listens, it looks, and it feeds back to the team that's back here out of harm's way. The Seattle Police Department has sought quotes for that device, and the value is $18,120 for this little handheld throwing robot. And we seek to acquire the device from the Seattle Police Department if you approve.
Do you have a question?
So does the subject that is being observed, do they see this little robot?
They can see it. Oh, yeah.
And they could throw it back out the window?
They could throw it back. Things like that have happened, yes.
So is it good for more than one use?
Yes.
Unless it blows up.
Yeah, and it can be thrown out the window and land on the concrete down below and should be fine if it's not more than about 3 stories.
So how far of a distance does it need to be thrown, or is there,
Well, it can crawl quite a ways, but you cut down the crawl distance by throwing it as far as you need to get it close.
and
Then
can
it
go
drives
to-
around.
It can go to different rooms if it needs to?
It can,
Wow.
yes.
How cool.
As long as the door is open. It won't open a door for itself, but it can crawl down the hall, it can crawl over gravel.
We'll have to work on that, huh?
Yes, after we get it, if you approve, maybe we'll bring it in and ride it around for council. Put it on your desk and crawl down the dike.
Anything to make our officers safer.
That's what the whole thing is about, keeping officers out of harm's way and have something else go up and look and listen.
Thank you.
President Kochmar?
Does it work for packages also? Does it?
Yes, it doesn't have X-ray vision. It does have night vision, but it can't look inside. So it can go up and look around for telltale signs of an actual explosive device. And if it indicates some, then they'll take other mitigations. If there's no such indication, then maybe the bomb team will get a little bit closer. The actual X-raying of a package or of a piece of luggage or something like that has to be done with a different device, which we have.
Who makes them? I'm just curious.
Makes the
The Throwbot.
Recon Robotics.
No, but who are they? Where are they located?
I don't know where they're located, not in Federal Way.
Oh, darn. Where's our economic development? Thank you. That's really interesting. You know, it's so interesting that it would be really cool if we did some kind of a video and put it up on Channel 21 so people could,
Let's do that.
cool.
If you approve, we'll get a video, we'll upload it on our Facebook page.
That'd be fun.
Councilmember Walsh?
Is it just exclusively for our use, or is it shared with other departments?
Our use. It'll be housed in our, unlike some of our surrounding agencies here, we have a bomb disposal unit. Some of our neighbors don't. Port of Seattle has one, we have one, King County has one, Seattle has one. And in South King County, that's it. So that's why it's coming to us.
So if Auburn had a problem, we'd probably be going down and helping
We
them.
could go down there with them,
Okay.
yeah, because they're not going to know how to use it, they won't be trained on it.
Right.
So a bomb technician would go with the device down to Auburn.
Just a quick question. As tough as it is, if a bomb does explode, is there a possibility it'll survive the bomb, or is it gone then?
It might, but if it's gone, better it than us.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, all right, thank you.
You bet.
I just got 2 quick questions. First one is how long we had the bomb squad, and when's the last time we actually activated them for some kind of purpose that this would be utilized in?
We activate several times a year. They have been activated this calendar year. I can't remember how many times. I don't have that number off the top of my head. It's not as active as the SWAT team. SWAT team will have more than 60 activations in a year. It's less than that. Probably would use this device on any number of those. It's like a crawling drone.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get it. It's just some of the grants that come through the police department always, shocking what's out there for grant opportunities. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to check on that one. All right, I'll take the motion when you're ready then.
Okay. I move to forward the proposed request to seek and accept the DHS grant to the June 3rd, 2025 City Council consent agenda for approval.
I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very
Thank
much. Moving on to the next item, E, purchase of replacement copiers.
Good evening, committee and council members. I wish I had something more exciting than a copier to follow that act.
Does it walk?
but I don't. So before you tonight is a purchase of all three items are related to purchasing equipment. The first one is 3 replacement copiers. So with the copiers, we run them on a 7-year life cycle, part of a proactive replacement strategy. That's kind of what we've determined with our service provider, also the same vendor that we're purchasing from, Copiers Northwest, that 7 years is pretty much the ideal time frame for it. So as part of the 25-26 budget, we put in equipment replacement, and as approved in 2025, we have $36,700. And of that, we will be spending or requesting to spend $36,004.09 for 3 copiers, one at Dumas Bay Center, one at the Police Department CIS Investigations Area, and Municipal Court. In the packet, there's a list of items and of the 3 devices that we'll be purchasing. Any questions?
You have a question? The only question I have is, did they come in the price point you guys were expecting?
Yes, fortunately. We had to downgrade one model by 10 pages per minute to get it to fit within our budget, but other than that, we're good to go.
All right, sweet. In that case, I have no questions. Motion, please.
I move to forward the proposed package of 3 replacement copiers to the June 3rd, 2023 consent agenda for council approval.
I'm going to second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next one, you're presenting item F, purchase of Gtech laptops.
Yes, so before you is the purchase of Gtech laptops. There are 2 different styles for 3 different purposes, and I'll outline them. So we've got before you, again, this is all part of capital replacement or part of a new fleet. So there's like I said, there's 3 different types of laptops being, or for different purposes, being presented tonight or requested for authorization, all from the same vendor. So we try to maximize the amount that we're doing with one item. So part of 2025-26 budget, council authorized the purchase of 16 marked patrol vehicles. And as part of that, we're buying 16 additional laptops to expand the fleet. So those 16 will be funded from the associated or additional associated equipment part of the vehicles. In addition, in 25-26, council authorized the purchase of 19 replacement laptops for police vehicles and 7 replacement laptops for city building inspectors. So the inspectors get not the same fully ruggedized model, but they get a slightly scaled down model. It's not as quite of a harsh environment for the city building inspectors. So all said and done, we're buying a total of 42 laptops. 35 of them are going to be the B360 Gtacs, which are the fully ruggedized. 16 of them for new expanded fleet vehicles, and then 19 of them for replacements, and then 7 of them for the S510 model, which is the semi-rugged ones for the building inspectors. All of them purchased off of NASPO contract from the vendor Wireless Access Technologies Incorporated.
Dobie?
Thomas, when do these need to be installed?
In which form?
Well-
On the new vehicles or in the replacements?
Yeah, when the new vehicle, the 16, what's the timeline on those?
So a lot of that is when they show up.
Okay.
So right now there are 10 of them, I believe, in line at Systems for Public Safety down in Lakewood, ready to be outfitted. Those cars get outfitted with the radio, they get outfitted with the light bars, all the additional stuff that the page and all that kind of stuff is part of that package. So those are ready to go.
So those ones are time sensitive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The replacements, are those time sensitive?
Not as much, but we do try to buy them kind of at the same time so we can kind of roll these together.
Yeah.
Also, the vendors are notifying us of potential increases with the whole tariff uncertainty. Same thing with the copiers. The vendors are letting us know, hey, we're expect a price increase soon. So
Now, and these are all gonna have carrier data on them, correct?
no,
No?
that's for the next item, Cradle Points.
Okay, Cradle
Yep.
Point, so you're gonna run these off the Cradle Point?
Correct.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking this question, this is the world that I live in every day across the country. And I know NASPO is, you don't have to go to bid,
Yes.
but I also know what these things cost
Yeah.
in the real world. So that's why I'm asking if it's time sensitive, because although it's simple to buy these on NASPO and you have a fair price, it's probably not the best price you could get.
Agreed. With most things that we buy off a contract, we are saving staff time
Yeah.
and all the headache and logistics. I have to come before you to ask permission to go out to bid,
Yeah.
to do all this stuff versus using this contract. So
Right, yeah. So that's why I'm asking the questions, because you would, if you didn't go on NASPO, then you'd have to go to bid, but you could save $200 to $500 a copy, potentially.
potentially.
And when we're talking about this kind of money, it might be worth asking that question.
Correct. Correct.
So, anyway, that's why I'm asking the question.
I mean, if committee's direction is to do that, there's no, so the reason, again, going back to why we use a contract, it isn't to get the best deal. It's to save, to make the most efficient use of city staff time, to continue moving the process forward,
Okay,
so.
okay. You've answered my question.
Okay.
So if it was 200 at 35, is that about 7,000?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the scheme of things, it may not be enough to make a difference, but if it was a substantial number, if we pass this forward to consent agenda and, we find it could be substantially less, I mean, we could always pull it at the consent agenda, other than the ones that are time sensitive.
Yeah, we could break that. So again, staff's recommendation is to purchase off of this. But again, at the end of the day, are we getting the best deal? That there's still an unknown quantity or component to that. As we don't. You might have an insider knowledge as to what the
Well,
exact cost, but what they're willing to
I-
quote us.
I did this all over the country, so I do have an insider knowledge of what these things cost, so.
Yeah.
But it might not be worth the hassle factor.
So again, it's up to committee's recommendation.
Well, I'm gonna suggest, is there any other questions? I'm gonna suggest that we move this forward, and then I'll provide you some information, and you can make a judgment if it's enough money to, with the budget being the way it is, every 20,000 we can save, pays a fifth of a policeman or something.
It does, but just for even if it's $200 or $300, like it's one of those things where I won't be able to go out to bid because I would have to come back to you
Okay.
in order to request authorization and go to bid in the time between today's committee meeting and council.
Yeah.
I got a couple quick questions on that one then. Do we actually have a total count for how many laptops we have at PD right now?
We do, just not off the top of my head.
If you don't mind sending that over, I'd be curious on that one. And then what do we do with the old equipment when we replace it then?
It has lived a long, hard life, and we surplus it.
So, does that mean you just like bundle it and state sells it again?
So we used to try to do that and palletize it. And now, again, it's one of those things where they're charging us to do a lot of that work, where they didn't before. They would come up as long as we gave them stuff, or we had Public Works that did other equipment, heavy equipment surplus, and then they would just all put on a truck and drive it down to the state, and they would just auction it, and then we would just get the proceeds minus their cut. But now they're charging just to take delivery or come up and pick it up. So. What we do, a lot of this stuff is not it's of negligible value, and so a lot of times we end up, and we haven't done surplusing on a consistent basis. So by the time by the time we get rid of it, by the time we actually end up disposing of the asset, it could be 7 to 8 years old versus 5 years. So we're trying to get better at that. But at least right now, we call up a recycler and we basically get salvage out of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Honda?
Thank you. So every police car has a laptop, is that correct?
The marked fleet, yes. Some of the unmarked, but very few.
So detectives in unmarked cars might not have a laptop?
Correct.
Do they have a laptop they carry then?
Sometimes they do, yes. It just depends on the nature of their job function, whether or not they have a laptop that they use here at the station, or if they have a desktop, if they need it. So there's some variability there. But for the most part, marked fleet does, unmarked most of the time not. And then of those, it is job dependent. So a lot of the investigators, criminal investigation staff will have laptops, but it's not a hard and fast rule that says, yes, they all do.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a couple other questions, if I may.
Go for it.
The bumper-to-bumper extended warranty, how many times have we ever had to get one of these warranted? They are rugged and,
I don't have the definitive statistics for you, but I can say that we use it.
yeah.
And some of the times it does end up paying for itself.
Is that for how many years?
What's that?
How many years?
For 5 years total.
5-year warranty?
Yeah. So we buy the warranty to cover the replacement
Sure.
timeframe.
Do we break them at 4 years so we can? No.
Well, a lot of these
Costco and their hearing aids?
a lot of these are not being broken due to fault of the electronic components. It's due to usually abuse. So, or,
It's not warranted?
what's that?
They don't warranty that?
No, bumper to bumper, that's why we buy that.
Okay.
And what is the installation cost? It's not in here. What are we being charged to install these?
So that is also variable, and it depends on how we do it. So if it's part of a new car build, for example, they just throw it in there as part of the overall package that we pay. If it's a swap, that we are trying to streamline some of our internal processes so that we can actually do the swap ourselves. But if we have to end up sending it to systems, there's obviously the car is down for a period of time. We have to usually have either the officer or, more commonly, a volunteer drive the car down to systems. So there's that transit time.
Mm-hmm.
And then systems charges us, I believe, a couple $100 to do the install. But the IT does not pay that. PD under fleet, the quartermaster pays for that.
Thanks for that. Okay,
But we're trying to do that ourselves because we can get a better, quicker turnaround time.
sure.
And then that way, number one, we don't have to pay that. Even though it's a trivial amount, we still don't have to pay it, number one. And number two, it's a better customer service for the officers to keep the car on the road longer.
And the vehicle docking station, that's made by GTAC? Is that their special one?
No, I think it's a rebrand of a Gamber Johnson, if I
Gamber
remember right, or Havas.
Havas?
It's one of those two. I don't remember. I think they switched recently.
I see. Okay. Okay. I think maybe next time around, we might want to be a little bit more creative. I can tell you how to be more creative.
Okay, no, that's good.
Okay. I'm going to move, I'll move to forward the purchase of the GTAC laptops to the June 3rd, 2025 council consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motions have it. Moving forward. I'll get that next. I'll take a moment to excuse Councilmember Tran from the meeting. Next item is item G, purchase of Credo points for police vehicles.
All right, so this is the final item from me tonight, and that's regarding the authorization to purchase Credo points for the police vehicles. So, one piece of information also from the last item as well. We've historically bought both the Credo points and the GTACs from a company called Bright. Again, using the state contract as a purchasing vehicle. We took it upon ourselves this time to look at other vendors, just to make sure that we are still getting a better deal. And so that is why Bright is not the recommended vendor on each of these this time around. So Wireless Access Technologies, who you authorized the previous item for, is a local vendor, local as in Washington State, is up in Bellingham. Small business operated versus a larger company. They were able to get a better price on the G-Tax. However, on the Cradle Points, another local vendor, Daytech, they, out of Tukwila, they came in at a more favorable price than Bright or Wireless Access Technologies. So, all that being said, we're still leveraging the state NASPO contract for a total of 16, because again, we're expanding the fleet. We don't usually replace Cradle Points until we need to replace them. So this one, we're buying only 16 of them. It's the IBR 980s, so it's a newer model, supports 5G. And we're buying it with a 5-year NetCloud Essentials, which allows us to do GPS locating off of that device, for a total of $25,152.05. And from Daytech Incorporated using the ASPO contract.
So I just have one question. Both of these purchases are off the NASPO contract,
Correct.
but this company that we're buying from actually is going off the NASPO contract, but is doing better than the other company that could do off the NASPO contract. Is that what I
Correct.
understood?
Yeah. All three of the companies we got quotes from for the Cradle Points.
So basically, if the price of these things are all the same, again, I know what the price is,
Sure.
and then you went out to the NASPO and you bid to 3 different companies, basically.
We didn't bid. We just
but we
request
asked for a
multiple quotes.
quote. I guess my only point is you can see that there's play in these things,
Yeah.
because they all buy them for the same price, pretty much.
Depending on their markup with
Yeah,
with
that's
the
all, it's
manufacturer.
all in their markup of how much they want to make is what they end up paying
Correct.
for it.
Correct.
Okay.
And so that's why I did leave that out from the last item, and that's why I brought it up here.
Yeah.
Is periodically we do look at making sure that we're still getting a better deal, because the way I understand the contracting pricing is it's a not to exceed. Like
Yeah,
you're supposed to get this much off, usually percentage, but the vendor could go a little bit more
Yeah.
if they chose to eat
They
into the
decide,
margin.
they decide to make less
Correct.
than what they could do.
Correct.
And that's kind of what you found when you went to these 3 different,
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yep.
And I hate to go back to the last one, but did we get other people on NASPO to give us quotes on the GTAC?
So we just on the G-Tax, we just tried the 2 vendors that we have historically dealt with. Bright. So there's a longer history with G-Tax. We used to buy them from HP, and then Bright ended up giving us a better deal, and so that's when we started going with Bright. And then now Wireless Access Technologies gave us a little bit better deal. And for the most part, it's because Wireless Access Technologies, and there's a lot more history there, but
Sure.
they are an actual, they're a reseller directly from GTAC. So they buy direct from GTAC. They don't go through a third party,
Right.
like a Cenex or
Cenex or
yeah,
Vertec or whoever.
correct. So they're able to get a little bit better deal. And I mean, we're talking, I think it was like $60 difference in pricing.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's what we did. Originally, we had a long time ago, it was our understanding that the contract price is the contract price, but then we found out that that's not the case, and so that's why periodically we do this, just to make sure we're still getting the best of the contract deal that we
Got it.
could.
Okay, thank you.
Only question I have on this one is you guys saved a few bucks. What was the savings, do you know? On these particular items, the Cradle Points?
Between vendors.
Yeah.
So Wireless Access Technologies, I don't have them right in front of me,
Just a ballpark.
but a ballpark, they came in at about $1,700 a copy, so quite a little bit higher.
Okay.
And then between Bright and Daytech, the cost was a lot less. I think less than $50 a piece.
Okay.
So,
We'd
but
have to-
again, if we have that information, and it's like for like equipment, we're kind of obligated to choose the cheaper price, right? So,
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that. No more questions? Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move to forward the proposed purchase of the Cradle Points for the police vehicles to the June 3rd, 2025 City Council agenda for approval.
All right, I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, item H, Economic Development Report, the Fun Tough.
Okay. Okay, so now you go back to Zoom.
Yeah, and then share.
Come on.
Is the Economic Development Report with the Imagine Institute?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, we were just discussing if it was easier to do one at a time or do the whole thing at once.
We're trying to figure out if we should interrupt you or not.
Yeah, Q and A out.
Well, and so, yeah, I was going to suggest that since it is a very long presentation with multiple players, to feel free to interrupt as you go through with each of the programs, because it is sort of broken up that way. And so I think that we'll just take a quick pause after the end of each program to see if there are any questions. Does that work?
That works for me.
Okay. Well, good evening. My name is Meredith Neal, and I am the new Economic Development Director here at the city. I will be presenting the Economic Development Report today. Since this is only my second week in this role, we have a number of the contractors who've completed some of the related work items and asked them to give brief presentations on them. And they'll also be available to answer any questions that you may have. So there is no policy question associated with this presentation. It is purely informational. Here's a list of the economic development programs. We will be going through them kind of in order. If it is all right with you, I would like to pull one of them with permission from council for Highline to present his portion of it when he comes up to talk about the ILA and item I. And then the other one, Stephanie Schramm from Madcap Marketing, she'll probably talk about both of hers at the same time as well. So the first one is the Police Department mobile surveillance trailers. So this was one where the city faced difficulties in monitoring high-crime areas such as parks and commercial zones due to limited police resources. So the Economic Development Department purchased additional MST units, the mobile surveillance trailers, that the police department is able to deploy in different areas and expand police surveillance coverage. The result is that it enhanced real-time monitoring and incident response. It also increased public safety and community trust and contributed to the Safe City program, deterring crime through surveillance and community engagement. If you have any questions on that, I will happily write them down and get back to you.
All right. Start off with Dovey.
How many times did they get used and what was the success?
So what Julie was just saying is that we'll have to defer to police on that. So we will get that data from them for how many times and what was the success rate, and we will follow up.
And also the questions, if you don't mind just doing a mass
Sure.
email to the council, that way we can all get the update.
Yep.
All right, Councilmember Honda?
My question is similar. Did these help in any crimes that were committed? And what was the, were some locations better than others that these have been placed in? Have all businesses been able to use these as needed? And is there a waiting list of businesses that would like to use these?
Okay, great. We will follow up in that mass email to council with how many times, what the success rate was. Did it help in the crimes to council? All right, did it help in crimes that were committed? Were some locations better than others? And then how were they allocated? And if everybody had the same.
Then I'm going to add two to that one.
Sure.
It's part of it, you might already have it on, it's just a list of where, like who actually requested them. And the last one is, when we first asked on how people can request it, it seemed like it was a pretty rigorous process. Is there a webpage that people can go to, or what is the process, and how do we make it as easy as possible for business owners to request those?
I have one more question.
Follow up.
Sure.
Have any of these been broken? And, you know, if they've been broken, have they been able to be repaired, or are they not able to be used anymore?
Okay, got it. Any other questions?
I do not see any more lights, so I think we're okay to move on to the next.
Perfect, thank you. The next presentation is going to be about the city grant writing program. And for that, I'm going to kick it over to Ariana Garofalo, who is a senior grant and RFP writer, and she is joining us virtually.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Meredith. Nice to meet you virtually and nice to see you all again. It's been a few months since I've been here, so happy to see you all. Hope you're doing well. And I'll give you this short presentation about the grant writing program. I will note that I made this presentation a few months ago before the end of our contract, so a few slides might not be completely up to date. So I'll make that note now. But this first slide is up to date. So this is an overview of everything that we accomplished with the city grant writing program during our time, which was roughly about a year. So there were 79 total grants that we researched, around 430 hours. I think that's actually a bit higher. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just noticing, I do believe that some of this is out of date, so sorry about that. But I'll just do some highlights. So a couple of the big accomplishments we had were the CURB grant, the Community Economic Revitalization Board. So that is going to be, help for the for downtown revitalization. So the 3D visualizations, the flyover is what that accomplished, as well as a detailed market study that will come out of that. Again, been a few months since I've been involved, so I'm not sure where how that has progressed along. But that was one of the big accomplishments. In total, it was about $211,000 of the big grants we got with the EECBG as well. And then some smaller grants for the Performing Arts Foundation, which I think might be in a later slide. So yeah, I think let's go to the next slide here. So with the grant and fundraising workshops was another big accomplishment that we had. So we had a total of 6 grant and fundraising workshops that we did in person in the council chambers room where you all are now. We had a variety of attendees. We had about 37% small businesses, 58% nonprofits, and then a few from government or other entities. Most attendees had some experience with fundraising, but many of them had never submitted a grant before. So it was really great to just be able to help them through sort of all the steps. So we started with identifying grants. We gave them tools to help identify them. We also did a workshop about grant writing, and then we had 3 on fundraising as well. I'm not sure if this is in a later slide, but I'll also just mention that we did a really great follow-up to this. So we actually did, I believe this was in February, so one of the last things we did in our contract, we did a follow-up, which was personalized grant editing assistance. So many people who had attended these workshops came, and then we also opened it up to the broader community, which was really great. So we did half an hour one-on-one sessions with myself, or also Angela Silva, who's the CEO of our company. So attendees could sign up for one 30-minute time slot, and they were able to get one-on-one assistance with us. They could email us their grant ahead of time, so this was very much real life. You know, they were sharing real grant proposals they were working on with us, and we were able to help them edit and give suggestions. So that was a way that we supported the community as well. And I think the numbers on here are just for the grant and fundraising workshops. For the editing workshops, which was separate, I believe we had only 16 slots that we opened. Those were smaller, and 13 of those slots were filled. So we had a really good success rate with that. I think let's go on to the next slide. Okay, this is actually the slide I was thinking we were starting with. Okay, so sorry about that. I think we kind of duplicated slides. So yeah, I was like, I think 430 hours seems low. So this is our actual total number of hours, which was 596. That included everything, you know, our grant research, meetings and communication with city staff, the editing, community sessions, and the grant management and compliance, for a total of 91 grants that we researched and recorded. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, and this is the slide about those grant editing workshops that we just hosted in February. So yeah, I think I've covered all of this. We can move ahead. Here's the slide about the grants for the Performing Arts Foundation that I had mentioned. So again, this one I've not updated since February or March, so maybe some more of these have come in, but we did get one since March, so that was the $15,000 from the Norcliffe Foundation for the Performing Arts Center, and all of these other ones that we submitted. So that's $87,000 in grants that were still pending as of March. So let's go to our next slide. So for this one, again, as we mentioned with the CURB grant earlier, so one thing that we had started helping more with, particularly towards the end of our contract, was the grant management and compliance, and that we were able to help with capacity. You know, these grants are really, the work is just beginning once you get the grant, because then you have the whole business of managing it, and there's always reporting to the funders as well as general project management. So in the few months of our contract at the beginning of this year, about 20% of our time was spent on grant management and compliance, which was a way that we were able to add value to the city, was being able to, you know, alleviate that burden that otherwise staff would have had to do with the with getting the reports and things like that ready. And, you know, most of this is still ongoing, as these grant terms will be for several years. For CURB, for the HUD grant, I'm not sure where that one has landed either. That one was still in progress as of March, but that one will be 8 years. So again, just another way that we were able to add value, or potentially could add value in the future, to be able to help with supporting this. I think that's the last slide.
It is, yep. So does council have any questions?
Thank you. I see on your chart, we put 16,000 in for the grant workshop series. How much did we put in for the grant writer? 95? And that, I understand that contract has expired.
It has.
So who is following up with the grants that were submitted and that we have not heard back on yet?
Juliana.
So Juliana, are you our new grant writer?
Apparently, yes.
Is that, I know we talked with Brian Davis about that, and he said that he and the mayor were discussing what we were going to do with the grant writer. So is that what was decided?
Yeah, I think at this time we've decided not to go forward with the grant writer in the full scope that we had before, but there's open conversations that we can maybe set up a meeting and see if they could support with specific ones that are open, since I'm not technically a grant writer. But most of them we're able to kind of manage through right now.
Okay, thank you.
Debbie?
Is the grant writer, because we don't have money, that we're not doing it? I mean, what made us, I mean, we went through this process.
We budgeted in 25, 26 for grant writing. It's part
Yeah,
of the
I was
budget.
just curious. I mean, they've gone through their funding, or 95,000 or whatever, and we didn't keep going. Did we not think the success was good enough, or we just run out of money, or did we forget as a council?
I can contribute. The original funding came originally from ARPA,
Yeah.
and so that has exhausted, so now it's back on the wait list. I think you can blame me. I think you can blame finance why it's being contemplated.
Okay, so because it was ARPA and it was one time, we just unilaterally made the decision, we're not gonna keep going? I mean, I get that, if we ran out of money.
Well, it'll be under discussion with Meredith and the mayor and Brian Davis as a decision among priorities.
Because I look down here, you know, way down here, it says city marketing contract terminated. There's still 83,000. Is that ARPA money,
It's general now.
or is that general money?
I don't know what the 83,000 is off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
I
So the
I
only reason-
believe that all of these programs were originally through ARPA funds.
Yeah.
And so I do think, you know, there are a number of programs that we haven't started yet, and the one that was canceled halfway through. We'll talk about those a little bit more in a few minutes, but our plan is to analyze those and come back probably in about 60 to 70 days to come back to you all and talk about sort of proposals for what to do, whether we go forward with some portion of that or whether we reallocate.
And I guess the question for you, Mr. Groom, because we spent our own money, so we wouldn't have to worry about the ARPA money. This money's not in risk of being taken back, like,
That's correct, that's correct. It created general fund
It gives
savings.
us a little
without the
bit of-
time. Yeah.
okay. But it seemed like the graph, I don't know, 3 slides back, I mean, they actually made some effort. And got, what, I don't understand what the $121,000 grant is, or the one back one more. I guess one more. Yeah, the 211,000, how's that being used, and what's that grant doing? I mean, that's the first I've heard of it. Or maybe I was asleep when they announced it.
So that's the
What's
CURB
that?
grant and the
I know.
EECBG grant.
Is that a new grant, new money that came into the city that we didn't have?
The CURB grant has already gone through and was approved. The contract's already been signed. So the 2 contracts that'll be coming to FedRAC for permission to work contract with, those 2 will fall under the CURB grant to work on the city visualization and downtown flyover. And then the EECBG grant, we're actually discussing if that's something just as us, team of 2, can manage or not, and if it's actually something that is meeting the goals of the city and their needs. And if it's not, then we'll maybe go do something else.
So you can, the 95,000, I think that's the number we paid for the grant writer, right?
Correct.
You can attribute $211,000 to the 95,000? Because we didn't have that money in any
The
way?
147,000, I will say that is
Pass-through.
a actual position and not actual funding that comes to the city. So it's a position, so it's a voucher program. So that will go through, no money will actually go through the city. It's a paid position, so they'll come and help us do planning and things like that for the clean energy.
Okay. So you did say that you can attribute that money to the 95,000 we spent, or not? Maybe I'm confused.
Yeah.
I mean, we paid a little under 100,000. Did we actually get 211,000 we didn't have?
The EECBG, we have not actually received that yet or the position yet, and the contract's not finished.
But we
so no.
anticipate it.
We could, yes.
We could. That's,
Yeah.
that, we could means it's not a done deal.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to ask for a follow-up on that one. I'll get you, Austin.
Yeah, it kind of along that. You're going first?
I just have a
Okay,
question.
all right, okay.
The EECBG, that was the one where it was federal? Wasn't that the federal one where they said, hey, we'll give you the money, but you have to hire one of the people we recommend for it?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So, Councilman Walsh?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what Jack was referring to. I mean, I think that we really need to have a better handle on what the ROI is on this. And whether, you know, that 147,000 from EECBG, you know, are we actually going to use it? Also, with using the grants, what is our cost to to implement them.
Right.
Because obviously grants always are either nearly always or 99% of the time or 100% of the time come with a lot of strings and a lot of expenses go with it. And so I think that we need to evaluate that to see what it's worthwhile. And also these pending ones, how long do you think it will be that they'll be pending before we'll have a yay or a nay on them?
So for the HUD one, I know that one, it's going to go through when, we're not too sure. The curb one, that one is for sure going to go through probably the next couple months, as we do need to get it started. And then the ECBG, that one we are kind of taking a look at the ROI, and then that one will determine when that arrives, if any.
The other ones here that are in yellow on this screen, but
Those ones I do not have as much visual on right now, but we can look into them and
Okay.
check in.
Yeah, we can follow up. And I think our plan with the EECBG, because that's just kind of been sitting there for the moment, because it is a pass-through and would require a lot of time, we're going to take a look at that grant and come back to you all and discuss that one a little bit more.
The only question I had was, we had 54 RSVP for the fundraising, not fundraising, but for the grant writing program. How many actually showed up of the 54 RSVPs?
Is Ariana still on?
Ariana, are you able to answer that?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I could get that for you if you'd like. I think we do have the actual sign-in attendance sheets. It was a bit lower, as typically happens with events, the number of attendees are lower than RSVPs. So I would venture a guess that it was probably around 35 to 40. People that actually attended would be my guess. It was a bit lower. But the other thing as well is that these were recorded and they're on your website on the City of Federal Way YouTube channel right now. They also got translated into Spanish, so they're available in English and Spanish. And so I did, after all of the workshops, I did send out a follow-up email and I sent out the links as well as the resources. So, it's tricky because even if, even the people who weren't physically in the workshops, they still received those materials and possibly benefited from them. So even the people who didn't actually attend did still receive the recording, and we had some handouts and additional resources and stuff. So we attached all of those to the emails as well.
Awesome, I'd like to hear that. I'm hoping if we haven't already, I'd like to make sure we have a link on the Economic Development's page to these videos.
Yep.
And then I would like to know, if we have not, I'd like to do a follow-up with the citizens or the businesses who did this to see what the take back was, if they've been able to apply any of this. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. So since these were recorded, do we know how many people have watched the recordings?
I don't have that right now.
I think we can pull the business analytics
Yeah.
from Thomas, or just we can request it from IT to share with you.
Yep.
It would be nice to do that, and it would also be nice to let the public know that this is available, so that they, those who weren't able to participate might be able to watch them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think communications manager Ben Miller also added it a couple times to Citywide News, so it's been pushed out a couple times, but I think it'd be good to push out again.
Do most cities have a grant writer our size? An active grant writer?
I don't know the answer to that. We can certainly research that and kind of look at comparable size cities. I think, it kind of depends on the city and what their strategy is at the moment. I know that there are some smaller cities that put grant writers in place specifically to go after capital project funding or that type of thing. But we can certainly research that and get back to you.
Well, Public Works and police go after their own grants, and they do a really amazing job of getting funding. So basically, a grant writer would need to do something with the other departments.
Right.
Specifically, I would love to see grants for parks, because we could use a lot of funding for our parks. And did we go after any grants for parks?
I believe there's an an actual spreadsheet that has all the ones that they went after, if they were accepted by the department or denied for whatever reason. And Ariana, if you're still on, do you have access to that?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me right now, but yeah, I know it's something we've sent out before and we could share again. So we didn't directly apply for any grants for parks. There were quite a few that we found for parks, but it seemed like they were doing a lot of their applications as well. We did offer to help if they needed the extra support, but in many cases they just were working on it on their own. I think that they also were working with another contractor temporarily that was working on some grants with them. I can't speak to that 100%, but yeah, so we can certainly share that. So we did not apply for any for parks directly. And I think one other quick thing that I'll say, I think the grants we secured for sure were that 64,000 and then the 15,000 for the Performing Arts Center. So that's probably like your concrete total to think about for now. And then, I appreciate that somebody brought up, that actually working on the grants is a lot of work as well. And so I think that's why, especially at the end, towards the end of our contract, we started putting, as we had discussed with Tanya, like putting more of our time towards the management and compliance side. And that is something our organization has a lot of experience with. We work with a lot of other organizations to support them with compliance and reporting and all of those things. So, as you mentioned, like the first iteration was a pilot for the whole city, right? We were looking at grants for every department, even though, as you mentioned, police was often going after their own grants and kind of didn't need our help. So I think, a potential thing to think about maybe for a future iteration is maybe being more narrow with economic development or parks or, whatever you guys would like. And also thinking about using us as that support for once you actually get the grants. And being able for us to add more value to you in that way as well. So yeah, thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think the only two follow-ups on that one is, did we, as an economic development team, did we learn some SOPs, some standard operating procedures for the grants, kind of like what she had said, so we'd have maybe a game plan we can talk about in the future? Because it sounds like we have some wins, some losses, but it's a little bit back and forth. And then Steve, my question is going to be, if you can verify, I do believe we stuck 2 years' worth of funding in there to economic development, so I'd like to know what that money will be allocated towards or what they're thinking of doing with it at the moment.
I'll follow that up.
Appreciate that. I don't see any more lights, so I think we're ready to move on to the next one.
Okay, great. So next, we're going to move over to Stephanie Schramm from Madcap Marketing, who's going to present on 2 of their programs.
Meredith. Hi, Council. Thanks for having me back. It's been a while since we've been here, so quick recap. We currently have 3 contracts with you guys, one of which is completed, which was the 100 people, places, and things, which last time I was here, I gave you a robust download on what we did around that. The second one is some website work that we've been doing, and I've got some reporting to do around that. And the last one was the Business Resiliency Program. Do I just scroll down? I do just scroll down. Wonderful. So the website contract that we have was kind of multi-layered. We were supposed to work on the visitfederalway.org site. That has been refreshed, updated, and it is now live. It is by no means perfect. I'm not sure that any website is, but it sure looks a whole lot better and it's operational. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend that you go do that. I still would like to do some updated photography on there, which I'm working with another contractor that the city has. And I'm sure there's some bugs in there that we haven't found yet, but it's looking great. The economic development website, we owe Meredith a landing page that is specific to ECDev. That kind of got sidelined with your transition in this position. And so we have a shell built, kind of a template built, but kind of need to work with your new academic development director to get that really honed in. Lastly, we were tasked to work on the engagefederalway.org website. That one has some roadblocks to it on the tech side. We've been working with your IT department. We do have access, but there's some questions on whether or not we want to try to attempt to rebuild this site on the current platform that it's on, which would not be ideal, or if we want to pull it off and do a whole new site on an open source like a WordPress, something that where we can have a little bit more creativity and freedom on it. So that one, we've got some roadblocks to work on, so I'm super excited to have Meredith here so that we can get unstuck on some of these things. And then the last contract, and then I'll take your questions, is the Business Resiliency Program. We haven't even really started on this yet. So the strategy and the goals was to come up with a marketing campaign and materials around all the different programs that you guys have to promote to your current business owners on, hey, the city's got graffiti removal and carts, we can come grab the carts, or we can put up the, all the different things that you offer to your business owners. However, we were put on pause. I think that came from the PD, like they wanted to make sure the messaging was really kind of dialed in. And so Tanya had told us to pause on this one, and we never got unpaused. So that one has no movement, unfortunately. Again, the Visit Federal Way website has been our latest work. We probably should have put a link in here for them, but we didn't. That one has been completed. You guys have that deck and all those materials in your possession. And I hope we can get this one moving. We do have a shell built out. It looks beautiful within brand. Just need content. And then this is the one that kind of got stuck. And I'm just waiting for a little bit of direction. Questions from the council?
On this one right here you just showed, I got this graph up here of all these different ones we're doing. Which one is that? It doesn't match with the name on the.
Oh, let's see what the contract calls it. Hold on just a second.
You know which one that is?
So this one is not actually an ARPA program, so that's why it's not on that list, because we were just doing items that were ARPA programs that were approved
Got
when
it.
Tanya was here. So this is just another contract they're doing, and she's
Okay.
going to give a report on it.
So this graph I'm looking at is not all that we're talking about. This is, because it doesn't correspond with what you're saying.
Right, this is the one item that doesn't fit that graph.
Okay. And the ones you talked about, ED website, the one that rebuilt at the bottom, that's the one that was 17,000, we spent 11, and it's still in progress, is that the?
Yeah, I've only billed 4,800 of the 17,000 at this point.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so the one you just talked about's not even on our page to look at.
Got it. I don't know what graph you're looking at, but I believe you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe next time we could coordinate them so we.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, you might be asking a lot.
Not you, I mean, you're reporting, but it would sure be nice if we have something to look at of what you're talking about.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, that's not on there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I'm fine.
Councilmember Honda?
So, with your report, what is it that you're doing then for us at this point?
So really, it's the website work at this point. So like I said, the visitfederalway.org's pretty much done unless somebody wants something more with it, but we've got the approval, it's up and running. Next will be the economic development landing page, and then hopefully engagefederalway.org. So it's the website work that is really high and mighty right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A couple follows up. The top 100, I know it didn't quite go where we liked it to. If we would redo it again, what would just a ballpark, we have roughly about 20,000 for it. What would it cost, do you think, to relaunch that in the future once we have a better position and a better outreach?
That's a great question. It kind of depends what you want redone. So there's some things that are done that probably wouldn't cost us much of anything, depending on what it is you would like to re-see.
Better response.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, there would be engagement. I remember as 100, and I think our turnout was very minimal for it.
Yeah, the survey.
You did say you learned a lot about the Facebook and the marketing that did work for it.
Correct.
So taking those lessons learned.
Correct.
What would make that thing maybe more potentially viable to get better responses, engagement?
Yeah, great question. So I wouldn't charge you anything to redo the survey. I think when we were to launch the survey this time, I would like to actually have a marketing strategy on how to launch it and where to launch it and why we're launching it. That was a missing component when the survey was actually launched before I was contracted.
Yeah.
I picked it up after the fact. So I think we need to have a marketing strategy pre, and you need to have a marketing strategy post to do something with the results. So we got the results, we analyzed the results, and then here we are. So the survey itself and doing that grunt work, I wouldn't charge you anything. We would need to talk about a marketing budget to get the messaging out.
Gotcha. I do know that there was quite a few dollars that were brought through LTAC for marketing purposes, so I'm sure we can discuss that in the future. My next one's going to be on Visit Federal Way. I usually look at the analytics on the back end of some of these guys, and a couple of the websites have been rebuilt. The analytics that used to have access have been broken. So I'll send an email out that she can forward to you.
Yes.
It looks like in March of this year, it kind of went from something to nothing to a little something.
Yeah, so you need to make sure you're looking at the new G4. So Google switched all their analytic platforms, so you got to make sure you have access to the proper one at this point. Yes, you probably saw about a 10-day dip,
Yeah.
and hopefully now we are succeeding where we were prior to that dip. But we can easily give access to whomever the city tells us to. They're active and it's up to date.
Okay. And the GA4 you guys use is the original code that was on the last one? Did you guys rebuild one?
The original coding was out of date and no longer active by Google.
Oh, that's interesting. It's still pulling data when we set it up.
Yeah, it will aggregate data and it will house data for a while, but that code is no longer valid through Google, so we had to update the coding.
So it was a UA code? you're
Correct.
saying? Okay. And the other one I'm just going to throw out there is Shop Local Federal Way. I used to get access to that. Not you at this point, but that one just completely died, so I'd like to
And
be able to
that
see
one was never contracted with us. It was on conversation, but not contracted.
Yeah. That'll be a conversation for, I'm sure, in the future. And then I just had I'm going to ask on this one, I hear this business resiliency.
Yeah.
Is this one contracted via the LTAC money, or is that a different bucket of funds that are being utilized for this particular campaign you're working on?
I
Or
don't-
would like to?
Yeah, I don't believe it's LTAC money. I believe it's general funding.
Okay.
That's the way I understand the contract. Happy to forward the council the full 54-page contract.
I'll pass.
But I
You
don't,
go.
yeah, I don't think it's LTAC or ARPA. I think it's general funding.
General funding? Okay.
I also have a question on that. So you talk about the fire department. What,
About the police department.
it says police department and fire department.
Which one are you looking at, love?
Second from the bottom bullet point.
Oh, yes. Oh, so the police department that I know of was the one that said, can we pause and help with messaging? Fire department might have been added by Tanya before she left. If she had conversations with fire, I was not a part of them.
Because we don't, they're a separate organization in the city.
Yeah, I
So
did
I
not
was-
know that, yeah. So I have heard that the PD, the chief at PD wanted to be a part of messaging. I didn't know anything about
Okay.
fire.
I was curious as to how you would contact fire and what you would do with.
I did not.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do not see any more lights at the moment. Looks like you're free to go.
Okay, thanks for having me back.
Thank you.
Safe night. Thanks, Meredith. Great, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so next we're going to present briefly on the website audit. That is another program that has been completed. The purpose was to evaluate the tourism and business-related websites. And as you can hear, a lot of that fed into some of the work that's happening right now. So that was done in collaboration with both J-Ray and Madcat Marketing. So they looked at visual design consistency, city branding presence, the user experience, staff feedback on the usability, search engine optimization and site analytics, and comparing it with competitor cities. So the key findings was that there was a lack of cohesive identity across the platforms. So that's something that we've been working on. And for example, the Visit Federal Way site now has the similar colors to the city main logo and everything else. And there's a lot more that sort of carries through. The user experience that sites like Shop Local Federal Way and Visit Federal Way needed major redesigns for usability and functionality, that there was inconsistent investment and maintenance, and central oversight was suggested, and that there were SEO gaps, as Councilmember McDaniel was referring to, looking for some of those back-end things to be able to track them. So some of the recommendations that came out of that were to redesign some of the priority websites, such as Visit Federal Way, which is completed, to unify the branding and the user experience under the city standards, to hire web professionals for rebuilds, which has now happened, and then improve the SEO and mobile optimization to boost digital reach. Any questions?
I do not see any lights.
Okay. Okay, now, as you'll notice on your chart, There are a number of programs that are in red. And so those include the Business Enterprise Startup, Business and CTE program, a Business Outreach program, a Retail Attraction program, and a Hotel Absorption program. None of those programs have been started yet. And what we will be doing is analyzing those programs over the next 60 days and come back to this committee with proposed next steps. So, any questions on that?
Will part of your proposal be to spend the money somewhere else and do something different?
It is highly possible, yes.
Okay. Because if we haven't got them done now, maybe they're not
Yeah.
necessary.
I would expect that probably the proposal will be to reallocate some of these funds to other higher priority items.
When you put that together, if you don't mind putting together a larger budget of, because we've had some extra inflows of funds and then a change up, I'd like to see what the new budget looks like for economic development.
Sure.
Councilmember Honda?
Thanks. So if these were reallocated, they would be reallocated to your department then, I assume?
Yeah.
We will explore that together.
Yep.
Because I think she would like to find out too.
Aren't they already in her department?
I think so.
They are.
I mean, we already
Approved it.
Right, but since they may not be done and they may be reallocated, I'd like them to stay in that department.
Oh, so you were asking, could we change it to build a park or something? No.
Well, I'd like to build a new
Do something
park,
different.
but
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
I'd
but
like to make, I'd like to make sure that what we had planned, because I'm sure that her department could use the funding for something.
Yeah, and I think that would be the intention, and certainly that would be part of what we would be bringing back to council, is to keep it within the department, but perhaps spend it on things that are a higher priority right now.
And a new park is economic development too, so.
Well, it absolutely
I-
could be.
I was
Awesome. I
just,
mean,
I was
yes.
just kidding. I just,
Good idea,
We
though.
could make a pocket park.
Wrong committee.
Well, that's a Honrui Park, right?
Okay, any other questions on this or comments?
So we still have the home in-care and a few other items. Will we be going over those? Or?
Yep. Yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna-
just talking about that section you just talked about right now? then?
Yes.
Okay.
So in-home childcare, we have Carly Meek, who is joining us virtually, who can go through this real quickly and answer any questions you have. Carly, are you able to hear us, and are you here?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Perfect.
My name's Carly Meek, and I am from the Imagine Institute. I am the director of the Imagine You program. And I am taking care of the contract with the city of Federal Way and helping to expand capacity for family child cares. So we have been supporting 3 interns since September going through our program. And this will be 3 different locations that are spread out throughout Federal Way. And I think you can go ahead and skip to the next slide, please. So basically within our program, with these 3 providers, this is going to open up to 30 childcare slots immediately for local families. And these slides were made for the previous month, and so I have great news that all 3 of them are having their licensing visit currently, and they should be fully operational by the middle of June. So that's very exciting. So throughout the last 9 months throughout the program, they have been taking trainings. They have been working in their mentors program up to 20 hours a month. They have been getting skills in their mentors program, which is a fully operational licensed program already. Learning how to work with the families, learning how to work with children, the operational side of the business, learning how to budget, marketing their program. Right now, we're just finishing up the last little bit of things that they need to complete, making sure all of their assignments are submitted. Their applications for the licensing process was submitted to DCYF typically by the 1st of March. And then DCYF has the next 90 days to come out and do their final inspections and anything that they need to tie up on loose ends. And then we hope that they have found a family that is on subsidy by the middle of June as well. So that's how the licensing progress is going for them right now. So as far as ongoing support that the Imagine Institute provides for them, like I said, we're working on doing marketing trainings right now. And so those will get wrapped up. And then in this next month, they're going to be having a training from our Shared Services Hub. And the Shared Services Hub is going to be their next step in the program. Through the Shared Services Hub, they can get grant writing help. They can get assistance from a tax specialist. They also have the ability to send any of their staff through professional development trainings. Just a lot of different resources for us to be able to ensure that they are sustainable and successful in the long run. We don't want to just get these businesses open and then, send them off on their way. We want to keep training them and keep helping them throughout the whole process, and not only them, but their staff as well. So the next steps are the couple interns that I had spoke to in the last couple weeks, they were just waiting for DCYF to come out. So like I said, by June, that should be happening. We would love to be able to have a grand opening ceremony and do a ribbon cutting with them and congratulate them on their entrepreneurship, and to be able to just show them what a big step this is, that they are a small business within the city, working with the City of Federal Way, and what a huge impact this is going to be for workforce development and within the early childhood education field.
Great, and I think that is the last slide. So does anybody have any questions?
I have one. How do you assure that these people have financial stability so they can afford to be in business?
So throughout our program, part of what we do is when they're doing their internship, they do get paid for that internship. So those 20 hours a month that they're working with their mentor, they do get paid for that. And then once they are licensed and they have a child on subsidy, they also get a $4,000 stipend to put towards their program. So there is several of them that are currently working, maybe already in a child care or in another field, or somebody that's kind of going through a worker retraining maybe. So we make sure that they have housing before they're accepted into the program. And then these are the extra financial incentives that we're able to offer them as well.
And so each one of these will have potentially 10 young people in their facility, since you're talking 3 of them and 30, is that kind of the ratio?
Yeah, typically you're licensed for a minimum of 6, and it really just depends on your experience that you have previously had in your education. Some of them are licensed up to 10, some of them are licensed up to 12. So 12 is the maximum. DCYF doesn't typically license for 12 right off the beginning, but that they increase that as it goes along. So we usually average it for about 10.
Okay, and at 6, are they making a living wage? They can support themselves and their business?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. Are these first-time childcare providers? Have they ever done
Not
this
always.
before?
It depends. You don't have to get experience to be licensed, but I would probably say that at least, I'm just going to guesstimate, 70% have experience in childcare previously.
How
But
many?
it is not a requirement.
Okay. How many employees does each childcare provider have? Do you know?
That's really up to the owner. I can tell you that from experience, I would have probably 1 staff person, at least part-time, to be able to relieve me as a provider. Personally, in my daughter's program, she has 3 staff members besides herself. So it really just depends on, what you're doing. and how quickly you want your program to grow.
And those are probably full-time employees or most likely?
I would say if you are first licensed with 6 to 8 children, it would probably be yourself being full-time, and then another provider that would probably be anywhere from 25 to 35 hours.
Do you know how many people applied for this program? Was it just the 3?
Oh, no, we have several. If you're talking just within the city of Federal Way, we have several other Federal Way participants that are getting licensed as well. But the contract that we have with the city of Federal Way is only for 3.
And my last question is, where is your business located at?
The Imagine Institute is downtown Tukwila.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, a couple questions. The first one is, this would be able to do 3 groups. Now, when we do these small businesses, would these be in-house, or do you know if these people will be renting out spaces in a business facility?
No, these are all in-home family child care providers.
Gotcha.
So inside of the home that they live.
Understood. The second part was, this was an $80,000 cost, but of that $80,000, was the stipend and this potential $4,000 part of that, does that need to be taken out of this if we're doing calculations on return on investments?
Correct. That is pass-through dollars to them.
So that's 12,000 plus. How much is pass-through of the 80,000 for these 3 individuals in your mind?
Let me figure that. I could figure that out for you real quick.
I appreciate that. And while you're doing that, the other question I'll have is going to be, what is the average? I think it was $1,000 to $1,500 was the average cost for daycare. And I just wanted to verify in that number if that's accurate.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that total again?
Yeah, I remember last time we had this conversation, I was shocked how much daycare was, and I wanted to say, you said it was like between $1,000 and $1,500. I don't remember what it was, but it was close to that. Is that about accurate?
I'm going to say that's actually probably on the low side. I was just at a provider's house this morning, and one child averages about $450 a week.
Get used to it, Paul.
No. Stay at home, mom. So if that's accurate, even on the low side of 1,500, that's $45,000 worth of generated revenue in the city for somebody. It's not too bad. If you could figure out what the pass-through, that would really help out. When I first looked at this, I was thinking it was $27,000 is what we were paying to have someone educated in this area. But knowing there's pass-through, there's actually more bang for the buck, I think, in this program than some of the other ones had. And then my last question is, with this continuation, are these franchises, is there a fee they have to pay in order to continue to have this support? Or is it once the contract ends with us, the support ends for these people at the same time?
No, so that's what's wonderful about the Imagine Institute. We are nonprofit, and we are not franchising these people out. This is their own business. So the majority of them are a sole prop and LLC. They own it. If they don't want anything to do with us after they graduate from the program, they are not required to. And then they also do have ongoing support and resources. So like the shared services hub that I was explaining, none of that costs anything. We actually, our training program for any of the providers, the actual licensee themselves, if they want to take professional development classes through our training program, we actually pay them $30 an hour to take these trainings, up to $750 a year.
All right. And I
So we
believe
do
you-
not charge for any of our services.
Gotcha.
We operate everything through grants and federal funding.
Understood. And I believe if you mentioned last time, you said the average length is 5 to 7 years. These people have been in business or something like that. It was a pretty good time frame.
Yeah, at minimum, for sure.
Gotcha. Councilmember Dovey.
Is there a waiting list for people to get into this program? Or
Oh, yes.
If we had,
Yes,
if there was ever
absolutely.
another, if there was
So
another.
we serve all of Washington State, and we have a waiting list, I'm going to say of over 700 right now.
How many in Federal Way?
I'm going to guess at least
20.
50.
50 people, so the 80,000 helped 3 get into business. And you're saying there's another 50 that would do the same thing if the funding was there,
Correct.
potentially?
Yeah. And the total pass-through dollars was 45,600.
Okay. Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
So roughly a little bit over half of it's passed through.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it goes right back into the field.
All right. I would like to have the economic development reach out to the 3 who completed this once they get the certificates, and then check with them. And then also we have the SBDC that I'd love to see a connection between the 2. I think this is probably one of the better projects that we've seen so far with some possible real support. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more lights. It looks like we're good to go on childcare.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Let's see, on to city marketing. So council has already been briefed with a final report on this item, so I'm going to move through these rather quickly, and happy to pause with any questions that you all might have. So the project overview was in 4 phases. Phases 1 through 3 were completed. Phase 4 has not been completed. And so this is the one that you see that the contract was terminated and about half of that contract amount is left, approximately $83,000. So the research recap, there were a number of focus groups and meetings and virtual interviews that were done. They found that there are some perception challenges. There's no concrete perception of Federal Way and a lack of positive perceptions and several misperceptions. There are some hurdles that developers faced with impact fees and policies and regulations. The positives, the location, connectivity, and quality of life are really strong assets here, and that there's a lot of untapped potential. Here is the SWOT analysis that kind of lays out what their findings were. And then some of the key messaging. So it being a strategic location in the Pacific Northwest, the downtown redevelopment that's underway and $1.2 billion in investment. The city is poised for growth and development, ample green spaces, all of our wonderful parks and amenities and the cultural gems that are here. Culinary mecca around global eating, and then the rich cultural diversity. And so as part of this, they created some marketing collateral that was developed, and there was data collection that was done as part of that. And they also worked on a key messages guide. And that's it.
Thank you.
So, happy to answer any questions or do my best.
I'm going to jump into the first question. I did not know, I knew about the termination a little bit ago. What was the reasoning and also game plan moving forward then?
So I'll answer the game plan first. So very similarly to the other items that we haven't started yet, I'm going to be digging into this a little bit more. I've started looking through the collateral that was created. And so we'll be looking at that and coming up with a game plan and coming back to you probably in that same 60-day timeframe to kind of come back with a proposal and what our next steps are on that. As far as why the contract was terminated, Juliana can probably speak a little bit better to that.
There was a mutual decision that DCI as a national chain, they weren't going to be able to do the regional marketing and social media as well as they could. So at that time, we decided to separate and then look for someone more regionally to do that last part of the contract.
I thought the whole sales pitch was these guys could handle national. They did this for a living. This is the professionalism. And then when it comes to the actual hard work, they're just gone.
Yeah, I think there was a mutual separation at that time for different reasons.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see any lights at the moment, so I guess
Okay.
we'll wait for you guys' response
Yep.
when you guys have a package for us. And what was the total cost we spent to date with that group?
It was half of the total contract amount, so it was $83,241,000, and $83,241 is what remains.
Okay. And for the 83, we've got the SWAT and some drawings they've done for us, or something you'll be showing.
Yeah,
some
so we have
brochures.
some collateral that was created. I would say that probably it needs some cleanup still, and some sort of localized efforts on it. But there are one-pagers for different types of industries. So there's one that's geared more towards commercial development. There's one that's geared more towards retail, one that towards restaurants, that type of thing that talks about competitive advantages of the area.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, well, now we're going to move to Shop Local Federal Way. And so Sherry Edelson is joining us virtually for that. Sherry, are you here and can you hear us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Hello. Thank you again for having me. Nice to see you all. If you remember, we were brought on to bring the Shop Local Fedway platform that was developed during as kind of a COVID response. We were brought on to bring that into kind of today's modern times. Member Marketplace, our company, we work with communities across the U.S. to create local-based marketplaces of their businesses. So our first initial piece that we wanted to do, or we were asked to do, was to kind of bring in the branding of the Federal Way city colors in there and kind of update the overall look and feel and usability of the platform. So as we evaluated that initial platform, the existing branding one didn't align to the city. It was that red and blue. There was no way to really shop local. There were a few businesses that looked like they had maybe activated and done updated their profiles, but most of the profiles were just kind of a general logo, had their business name. A lot of them didn't have a description or maybe a one-word kind of answer of what they did. Very few links or other further information to kind of take action from the website. So it was a directory, but not very usable in today's standards. And so we took that into kind of this next phase. I don't know if I can click it. There we go. Into rebranding it underneath the city refresh. So it's had a new logo that we had created for that, and brought in the welcome home feel of Federal Way. There is a directory in the platform, so you can go through and sort down by a specific business category and find those businesses. But then businesses are also able to either update their own information in the platform and build out kind of a better visible profile in the platform with their logo, with another picture of their business, whether it's their storefront or what they offer. With a business description, businesses could also self-identify from different demographics in there as well, and you can sort down and filter from those as well. And then we were able to bring in additional businesses as well, focusing initially on more consumer B2C businesses. So again, that shop local, rather than just every business that exists in the city, really focusing on more of that B2C ones, restaurants, retailers, makers, service providers. So the directory now has over 500 businesses in there. Again, most with that expanded business data and information in there. A lot of direct outreach to businesses, a lot of combing through city business license data from information that was on there, and then just general Google searches and information through Yelp and what we could find on businesses to get those links in there when we can, to get a website in there if we can, to really make it more active to be able to find information. And then the next part of it was that Start to Cart program too, where we were teaching businesses e-commerce. So they have their own storefront in the platform. They could add products into the marketplace, and if they already were online, we could integrate with their Shopify or Square store. If they had those platforms, if they weren't yet online, maybe didn't know how to do that, we offer 2 6-week cohorts where they can come in and kind of learn Start to Cart. So what is online? Why should you sell online in today's times? What type of products might make sense for your business? What does it look like to list products? What goes into a description and a product title? How to take good product photography? All of them really being transferable skills. So whether they ended up selling on Shop Local Federal Way, or they wanted to open their own website or sell on Etsy, whatever their medium was, it wasn't just specific to this website. We wanted to level up kind of that digital presence in one way or the other. There was about 24 businesses that accessed those trainings, whether they had come to multiple of the trainings, watched them on replay, or attended live in those sessions. And when they attended live, they can ask questions and go back and forth. And those are still up and available for businesses to do. And then they also have direct support from our teams, so they could call in, they could email, we review their products and the information before they go live, so really having that direct support for those businesses that need a little bit more hand-holding as well. The overall traffic, part of it was to push in a social media presence as well. So there was an old Shop Local Federal Way site that, again, branding didn't even match necessarily the site. It hadn't been updated since, I think, November of 2020. So we had created a new social media page for that, pushed out several different engagement campaigns to try to let people know about the new platform, to be able to come and visit and shop from it overall, to try to get some visitors and some trust to the new site as well. And then we also launched a couple of seasonal campaigns, created toolkits for the businesses to help them share out being a part of the platform, and did some ads on that as well. Current results and outcomes. We did get the new site up. We got the redesign. We streamlined navigation, make it a more visible, friendly site. We got more businesses in the directory that looked appealing. I know the e-commerce part didn't play out as much as maybe we had hoped, or there's still some maybe digital readiness that isn't totally ready there for e-commerce, at least not through the platform, because some businesses did have their own e-commerce site. So one of the new pieces that we'll be doing in this coming year is being able to onboard, which I know it sounds like some of the city members missed, was having, even if it wasn't as usable, bringing in all 5,000 or so small businesses into one platform. So we will be doing an expansion now to bring in the next phase of businesses in there, but still finding relevant business data. We don't just want a bunch of lists and names, a category and a business name without anything that's helpful. So we'll be combing through that data again, getting the next phase of businesses in there, and getting their business categories, getting their business name, but also again the logos, the descriptions, any kind of additional demographic filters. We'll be adding in a full business map, so you could filter down by restaurants, see them on a business map throughout the city, and then also having community engagement tools in there where businesses can come in and make posts about their offerings. It doesn't have to be an e-commerce product. They can talk about a promotion 2-for-1 night that they have coming up. They could talk about their moving service or storage units, really being kind of more of a hub of what's happening from local businesses, and then allowing the community to interact in there, to directly message those businesses, to like, share, and save their offerings, to go in and make a request maybe for catering, and have different businesses come back and bid on that, say, hey, this is what I need, and then also have automatic communications that come out on all of those new posts to keep everybody engaged. So this next year will be less of a focus on e-commerce. We'll still have those resources available to them, but more of a focus on getting a full-on directory hub of everybody in there that still is branded with all of that same collateral and everything that we've done, but maybe a little bit more of the focus on bringing everybody into the platform. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to touch on. Oh, and the city leaders will have be able to go in and update businesses if they want to as well. So I know that was a challenge. It sounds like they want to come in and be able to add some new business license information when businesses had recently applied. So they'll be able to come in and add businesses on their own too if they want to, and then send out a notification to those businesses that they're a part of there, so they can come in and make those posts and communicate with customers, and be able to see all the metrics and everything there on the back end. I think that's it. Let me know if there's any other questions or any questions.
Okay, any questions?
I don't see any lights, so I got a few quick ones. The first one I have is, I remember when we first talked about Shop Local, there was a two-cost part. There was the setting up the hosting, which is roughly the $80,000, $79,750. But then there was the potential for people who came on board to then be charged in the second or third year. As we move forward, once this contract ends, if the city decides to stick around to Shop Local, what is the continued annual cost going to be for hosting this platform? And then on top of that, what services, because it sounds like you guys have done some ad spend and manual building that was not, I believe, part of the original concept. So what does the future look like for this particular project?
So there was some minimal ad spend or outreach in there that was a part of it. So I think there was, in the original one, 4,500 or so was in that business outreach. So we kind of pushed in that business outreach, the combing through data. It was a lot more than we had anticipated, but that's kind of pushed into that line item. And then there was some, it was a minimal of about 3,500 or so that was pushed for the ads and the toolkits and the social media engagement and trying to get people there after that rebrand. So there was minimal there. We're still keeping that in this next year. There's still a minimal amount in this next year. It goes down to, the first year was 45. This next year's gone down to 22. That's about the cost for about 4,500 or so to be in this platform. It depends. If we want to push more towards marketing, that some could be flexed in and added in, but this will encompass the platform. We've also got some new tools where it can be embedded on the CISD's website if they want to as well, versus a standalone. So it can be both. It can be embedded, the directory there, and then also still SEO indexable and searchable on its own and found through their own sites. There's some other tools and resources that we're building in to try to reduce some of that friction of that cost of having to get everybody directly to one site. And then the cost to businesses, that's where the e-commerce really is the heavy hitter, and where that aligns with, PCI compliance and managing the products and the data and the payouts and all of that. That's a huge heavy lift. So it's more on the engagement and the knowledge on e-commerce, with right now not having that fully in the platform. It may be added in, but then the businesses that want that would pay for adding on e-commerce, not it having to be right out the gate for all of the businesses and have the higher cost that goes along with that.
Gotcha.
So if we add that into this new version, the businesses that need it and want it would have it, but it doesn't have to be, the cost doesn't have to go up for everybody for that.
Gotcha. So for the increased potential people who've signed up for it, that would be selectively based off the people who have a necessary need for your additional services or procedures or projects?
Correct, yep.
Okay. And then it sounded like it was, so you're saying roughly around $25,000 is what the annual for the platform to continue this process?
Yeah, so I think there's about 45 to 5,000 businesses, so we're getting a new refresh of the data, maybe next week or so, Juliana. So we'll look, but it's right around, that's between like 22 to 24.5 or so, for about that amount of businesses in this kind of the new version going out.
Gotcha. And then of the 500, how many are actually self-setup versus city or assisted by you guys for setting up for profiles?
There was about 50 that were self-set-up.
Okay. And then of the 24 that are online, is there any way to know that if this actually worked, if they've been able to make any sales off of the platform so far?
A couple of them made sales, but that's where the traction of getting the site off the ground initially was delayed on just a few different data resources and getting up information. So the launch didn't really start to happen until, I want to say, it was there and visible, but we had to get it up into businesses and products to really start to push it out. And that flywheel takes a little bit of time. So there was a couple or handful of sales, but not enough that it really made a difference to keep that e-commerce portion going. And we still want to keep the education on it because it's still a critical need for businesses to know how to sell online and get online, but not having the whole platform focused on the e-commerce, I think, will be a better use of city funds.
Gotcha. Okay, I appreciate that. The only follow-up I'd have on this one is if this works out with the farmer's market or what the future plan for farmer's market, I think there should be some kind of tie-in between the two systems. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yep.
I do not see any other questions on that one, so I'm sure we can move forward on that one too.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that's the end of the economic development report. And then we're going to roll into
Could I
small.
ask?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just want to mention, so, all of this was from ARPA funds. And so, the thing is for us to, I'm not sure where we're going, in the future with the budget. And I wouldn't want these people to think we're going to continue. We'd have to look at everything again, but, these are a lot of these projects we've never had before. And so I just want to urge caution moving forward, because we're talking like maybe we'll continue with things that maybe not be possible. So,
One of the things that Tanya Carter requested is that we put post-ARPA all of these programs
Yeah,
on the wait
thanks.
list so we don't forget about them, so
Yeah.
that we can prioritize them with all of the needs of the city.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. So next, we're going to move into the Highline College Small Business Development Center interagency agreement.
Will this be item number I?
This is item number I,
I'm
yes.
just going to read it out then. 2025 Highline College Small Business Development Center, SBDC, interagency agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. So the policy question on this is, should the City of Federal Way enter into an interagency agreement with Highline College through its Small Business Development Center to continue to provide complimentary business development resources to small and medium-sized businesses in Federal Way? Just a brief background on this program. So Highline College has been the partner with the Small Business Development Center with the City of Federal Way. The annual cost of this program is $24,000 a year. The agreement term would be January 1st to December 31st of 2025. And here's a list of the services provided, and they will be giving a presentation to go over this more. So the options to consider.
My question is, are we like 5 months behind on approving this? Because it's May 2025.
Yes.
Did it just fall through the cracks, or did we?
I think this is one of those things in the transition that did get stalled out a little bit.
Okay. Do we have to go through the presentation, or can we just move it forward since we've had this 1 year for a long time? I mean,
I leave that up to you. We have them here, we have Rich to give the presentation, but.
I mean, it's a great organization. Do you guys need a presentation?
Only thing I'd like to see is the one sheet that shows the numbers. That's it. And then the other one's going to be is what was the price, what was the cost for the contract last time?
Price of the contract last year?
Yeah, it's 24,000, I think, is what we have for the annual cost at the moment.
That's, when we began in 2008, the cost was 22,000, now it's 24,000.
You said 2008?
Yeah.
Well, inflation doesn't work on you guys, huh?
We spend too little.
Yes, we're getting a very good bang for the buck out of this project, apparently.
So you just want to see the, kind of a summary of the numbers?
Yeah, just that one sheet's all I care about. Then, like you said, everything else is.
Okay, thanks, Meredith. So this one shows that we were contracted to serve at least 32 unique business clients. We served 41 this last year. Those businesses totaled 158 hours, so just over 3 hours per business. What we find is it takes about 3 to 5 hours to have any real impact with the business, and some go much longer than that. But that it resulted in the 29 new jobs and full-time and 5 part-time, and about $850 were either borrowed or invested in those businesses. And then there's the breakdown of the ownership. It's split pretty evenly between ownership between male and female. And then I showed the pre-venture. Demographics have always spread fairly evenly according to the city. And then SBDC focuses primarily on established businesses greater than 1 year. And you can see 24 of those businesses were served this last year. And then these others were just a breakdown of the type of service. So these are kind of the categories of our advising. Startup is high when you are in, when people are fearful about what's going on. We saw it in 2008 and 2009, we saw it in 2020, we saw it when we had high inflation a couple years ago, and now we're seeing it now with the tariffs. And then managing a business is kind of a large category that covers a lot of different things. Marketing is always important, financing. And business planning, I want to point out that that's not just startups. A lot of that's with established businesses, helping them either launch new product lines, doing strategic planning, those type of things. So that's the type of advising we did, those categories. And then the types of businesses served, quite a few are the service businesses in the city. Pre-venture was again high this year because of the unrest of businesses individuals being concerned whether they're going to have work. So they're thinking maybe it's time to start their own business. And then accommodation, food services have always been high in Federal Way as well. So those are primarily those are the numbers. The only other thing that you might, I can skip through these because you know who we are and what we do. But if you wanted to take just a minute and have Andrew just speak to the digital literacy piece, which was ARPA funding
he could speak to that at this time if you'd like him to, or we can bring that back at another time.
Might as well just do it now and just knock it out.
Okay.
Good evening, council. So, as you know, there was a digital literacy workshop called Google and AI for Business that happened March 25th through April 3rd. That was the second time it happened. And just to show you guys something, the video, I have a 30-second trailer, just 30 seconds, but it goes through some of the stuff we did in the workshop. And let's see if this pops up. There we go. Yep, thought that might happen. So give me 1 second. That looks like it. Yep. This is a website that was made for the participants to actually see the materials and for things like the trailer to be hosted on. Oh no, that's a problem. Well, you can't actually see the trailer. It was made specifically for you guys, but the general concept is there's a whole website that hosts these videos and the content of the classes, so individuals who weren't able to attend can still see it and work from it. So we're about to drop these in a YouTube playlist so that the individuals who came and didn't come can continue to learn.
If you don't mind, just shoot an email to the council with the link. She can add it to her long list email.
Okay.
And then what was the engagement turnout, and what is your overall feeling and vibe for this? Was it worthwhile? Is it something that we need to look at in the future, or was it was nice, but no?
So we had about several people show major interest, about 30 people show interest, and as you know, there's a lot of fall off, so we had about 15. And then we had several people come on and off, but the general consensus was we did not know how awesome this was until we came to class because there was nothing to show what it was. So the concept of the video I was about to show you was going to run through how we used AI, how we used Google to quickly, in less than an hour, create websites, content, and even images, all for their site, their specific site. So their specific company, their specific site, their specific content. So I have now a list of 30 individuals who are interested, and one of the clients from Federal Way who wasn't able to come shared some of the material with him, and him and his business partner entered into a business competition, and they just won third place in that with the UW Dempsey Business Competition, where they actually received about $12,500.
Nice.
So some of the material was able to be used for that. So I can pass it back on to Rich, unless there's more questions.
I think my last question is going to be, if we were to do this again, or if there was something like this, what would the cost be associated with future versions of this, or is it strictly online automated nowadays?
It's very valuable to have it in class because now that we're using AI, education's different. It's not following a textbook or step-by-step. It's how can I use this tool to customize for me? So when everybody's in class, we have them talk to AI, structure their business plan, and utilize that in real time to construct their actions. So it's a different type of class that does have to kind of happen live, whether that's live through Zoom or live in person, but it's all an interactive workshop.
And do you think the price would be the same to run it again, or do you think the price would come down, or what do you think the price would be?
Ooh, Rich, I'll pass it on.
Do you need to run numbers and get back to us?
So most of the funding of this was to give us some time to develop this and test market it and do some work with the businesses. If we were to continue to work with this program, since it's mostly developed, we would try to just integrate it into the work we're already doing with the city and just use it as another tool. So, in fact, Andrew had some really good response from some of the businesses who went through that, who were excited once they got through that. And I think the biggest challenge is lots of interest, but getting people to show up. because it's at night or it's at weekends, can't do it during the day because they're still they're working or, so that's our challenge, is getting participation. And I'm sure, knowing Andrew, there's always going to be some additional development, but we would see this as a tool now that we can roll out and use to serve the businesses in Federal Way.
All right. And then my last question before I allow for motion or other questions is, what's the current cost? Are we, because like you said, it's been almost the same number since 2008. Is there anything we're potentially losing with the current cost of this contract? Because it hasn't gone up, and I'm curious to know. Everything else seems to go up around us.
Yeah. The other city partners that we work with, it's the Soundside Alliance, which is Tukwila, SeaTac, Des Moines, Normandy Park, and Burien. That group, for a similar service, pays about $60,000 a year.
Huh.
So we've worked to try to find other ways to fund our program. So you're getting a good deal.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about that. All right, I don't have any other questions at the moment. I appreciate the work you guys do, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I move to forward the proposed interagency agreement with Highline College to the June 3rd, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Hey, thank you guys very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We will move on to topic J, ordinance 2025-2026 biannual budget amendment. Director Groom.
Thank you. I will find it pretty quick. There we go. Okay. In your packet, you've got a memo that I've tried to put into PowerPoint slides to make as simple and easy and big font that we can make clear. The reasons that we come to do a budget amendment generally are for things that we did not know at the time of amendment, things that have arisen that are new. And I can just go through them. The first item is vehicle purchases that we had deferred originally in the budget. These are for vehicles in the Public Works Department, and EJ identified some right-of-way revenue billing that was being done that was quite a bit higher than what was budgeted. So that was an easy way to fund his vehicles from his revenue. The second one is the curb grant, and it's always easy to add new revenues and new expenses, offsetting. When you've got new revenues coming in that weren't in the budget and those pay for expenses, well, then that's just an equal and offsetting revenue and expense, same thing. The Parks Henworry Garden Project, there were restricted donations that were received in February, so that enabled us to add both the restricted donations and the offsetting expenses to the proposed budget. And lastly, we're adding offsetting revenues and expenses for the farmers market. Bill Vadino came and presented on that. The projections that he showed had I think more in the neighborhood of 120,000 in revenue and 120,000 in expenses. However, we think those were cautious, and because we think they're equal and offsetting, we want to leave enough room so that if the revenues come in and the expenses are equally higher, that we can pay the vendors the reimbursement that comes in. So all of those come out neutral. The biggest item that really deserves some explanation is the 3 collective bargaining agreement settlements that I have to fund. And to be honest, we wanted to bring the budget amendment last month, and I needed another month to get another month's worth of revenue in before we started trying to reforecast the year. The way that we found that we can fund this $1 million, it's a sizable amount. We knew at the time of adopting the budget that our utility tax projection was overly cautious, perhaps, and the way that the revenue for utility tax is coming in, This isn't this is not an additional tax, this isn't changing the rate, it's just that our forecast, when we budgeted, we were overly cautious. Now, in the same breath, I think we've seen that sales tax has also has been underperforming. So what I have been able to do is reforecast utility tax. I think it's going to come in 1.2 million higher than we budgeted. I'd like to bring sales tax down. And then right-of-way billing, which I just mentioned, which was funding those vehicles, by looking at inspection fees and permit fees, that adds $300,000. Problem is, that's in the street fund. So I can increase the revenue for that. That allows me to reduce the general fund subsidy in the street fund, creating the general fund savings. And that's how I can cobble together $1,050,000 to pay for the collective bargaining agreements. That is actual salaries and benefits that we, one of them was, had 3 years of retro payments. So going forward, that one's not going to hit as hard as the other ones. However, these have to be built into the budget. We simply have no choice, and so that was how we found a way that we could pay for them. The remaining, I think, 9 things are from fund balances. Most of them are from restricted funds, as you'll see. The top one is just the $33,000 for the farmer's market equipment purchase. That just needs to be funded by the general fund. I didn't have any new revenue. That's going to have to come out of fund balance. The $400,000 for Steel Lake property purchase, I'm sure you remember that back from February. That was funded with a combination of surface water and parks CIP existing fund balance that we have. And this fit its use. This was a restricted fund that could take care of that. Computer room air conditioning, that is a restricted fund balance that is split by Parks Levy and Parks Capital. That's because it's for a facilities piece of equipment to take care of computer room air conditioning. A critical piece of server rooms are critical to the infrastructure, to the backbone of the city's IT. Thomas would tell you that. There was a $51,000 locker room project architect increase that was approved back in March. That is coming out of Parks Levy and Parks Capital fund balance. Then I have several IT items. I believe Thomas has presented on all of these, and this can come from the IT Internal Service Fund balance. If you need further explanation on those, Thomas would be the right person, and I can ask him to email or talk about them when they come to full council. But because, gosh, you could offer me $1 million. Can I tell you what an IT service cluster replacement is? I don't remember what it was, but he's already approved that. He's already presented that, and that's been approved. The battery replacement, that is an array of batteries that is part of the IT system over at the Performing Arts Center, and it's just failing. So that comes out of that fund balance. There is some software that Thomas is greenlighting for our permit department, $28,000 for the front customer-facing part of that software, and then $50,000 for Microsoft 365 network and system. So that's all that I'm bringing. These will come back to City Council for public hearing and first reading on June 3rd, and then it'll go forward to June 17th for second reading before they can be made part of the budget. That's my attempt at explaining in public what you had in the staff memo in your packet.
So it sounds like the $1 million has taken a lot of wiggle room out of your budget for the remainder of the year.
It has. And I took a long, hard look at that utility tax to see if and I'll show you the graph.
Yeah, we'll see it shortly.
Yeah.
But again, that was, $1 million in that you could come back later in the year if something came up, but it would seem to me that we're like on the razor's edge of, between positive and negative. If anything else comes up, we're gonna have some really tough decisions, and you may go over that in the next meet.
I think that's true, and back when we were adopting the budget, we had a tough time balancing the budget, and we were kind of hopeful about sales tax, and that has not proved out quite yet.
So we have the trifecta, we have sales tax, REIT, and something
Unions.
else that's not, now utility tax, I guess, so it's,
My interest revenue is not, our cash spending in the first part of the year, my interest revenue is underperforming so far this year, yeah. But I did feel good about, while I increased utility taxes forecast, I felt good about bringing sales tax down a touch, just to try to be a little bit more
you may have been a little optimistic on only bringing it down 450 or whatever it was. But-
True enough.
Okay.
I'm trying to be transparent and honest about what we're proposing, yes, yes.
Well, we appreciate that part.
Yeah.
Could you go back, I just want to make sure I understand this before we go through.
Absolutely, happy to.
You can go back to the one with showing the police. First part is just additional revenues that came in.
This one right here.
Okay, so the only other big hits on this one were going to be the vehicle for the Public Works, is that correct? I think that was one before this.
That was the previous one, yeah.
Yeah, so the vehicle, so this is unbudgeted new revenues. So when you say new revenues, what's the 138 vehicle fund
Oh,
purchase?
it's coming in better than budgeted.
Oh, okay.
It's just favorable to budget.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand that. The other ones I understood were reimbursements or expenses, okay?
Yeah.
If you go to the, so on this one, the roughly $1 million that is the new expenses, is that just for the back pay, or is that for the back pay and covers the remainder of this year's increases in
It covers
salaries?
this year and the back pay.
So it covers everything up to the end of the
Yes,
year?
I wanted to point out that it included retro pay on that one, yeah.
Gotcha. But the budget repasses for next year also, so will there be an adjustment next year to cover the 2026?
Yes, sir, we're on a new trajectory, yes, yes, so I'm gonna have to deal with that next year as well, yeah.
Gotcha. And then if I understand this right, so you're saying utility taxes, you've estimated additional 1.2?
Greater than what we had budgeted.
All right, and then sales tax is down, and the other one's kind of a pass-off, permitting fees up a little bit.
Right.
And then, what's the ROW, just out of curiosity?
Oh, right-of-way. Right-of-way billing, it's right-of-way inspection and right-of-way permit fees.
So those would usually be associated with the larger project, or?
It comes out of from our engineers in Public Works, and it has to do with a lot of inspections and permits that they do for Lake Haven Water or Puget Sound Energy. It's permits that they do in the right-of-way.
Understood on that one then.
So there's the accounting version of what they're doing.
It worked for me, though. I think that's the main questions I had, just wanted to be sure I understood that.
Great, thank you.
All right, I don't see any other questions, so a motion, please.
I'll make the motion. I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the public hearing and the first reading on June 3rd, 2025.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to second to the last, K, accounts payable vouchers, 4/16/2025 to 5/15/2025, and payroll vouchers, 4/01/2025 to 4/30/2025.
I move adoption.
I have no problem with that. So I will second that. I have a motion and a second. Is everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, going to L, monthly finance report, April 2025.
Okay. Not much unexpected. I do have one. And inflation is down. I bring this to you every month. Inflation continues to be very, very close to the 2% target that they're looking for. Sales tax. This one is unfavorable to budget, not by much, and it's over prior year, and it's so close that you can't even hardly see that red line. And here is the graph that shows month over month over month. We've had one positive month and then two negatives. However, year-to-date, we are just a touch over prior year. That's our sales tax, and so if we bring down our sales tax budget by, that'll help.
What is 4.7% on the whole year? Let's say that's a trend now, and you're up and down, we're close, but in December, what's that look like? How much are we
Yeah.
upside down?
20 million times 5% would be 1 million.
Okay.
Nice round numbers. Here's the utility tax that it really is coming in. It's 12% favorable to budget, 7% to prior year. This is the one where I'm reforecasting it that it'll be 1 million higher. Permit fees has.
Do you have any idea why that is? I mean, are people using their cell phone more, or what are they doing? Why is that up?
I think I was trying to be cautious and conservative at the time we did our budget with something, is what I think it is. I think it was my cautious budgeting. Well, I mean, 7% over prior year. 4 or 5% of that could just be inflation. If rates have increased, I don't think we have new volume. If rates go up, if any of the utilities raise their rates, then our percentage goes up accordingly.
But the question is, utility tax going up, garbage is a big part of utility tax, which goes to overlay. So is it really going up, or are we going to spend more in overlay and not have the excess money?
It's a complicated budget.
I mean-
It all goes into the mix. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a restricted revenue, it's a general fund revenue.
So this is a mix of everything, and we may have committed some of that utility tax to something else, potentially.
We do have some restricted utility tax. This is only the unrestricted portion. This isn't the
police.
the pieces that went to the voters and we,
So the overlay program is restricted
yeah.
by ordinance, so it shouldn't be part of this.
No, this is only the unrestricted portion.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's a good point, thank you. Permit fees, this one is interesting. For the first 3 months of the year, this came in really low. And it's still unfavorable to budget, it's still under prior year, but if I show you the month-by-month graph, if you're looking at the gold bars, January, February, and March came in significantly less than prior years. But in April, we got a big remittance, and you see large permit spikes from time to time. That just means it's going to be a large commercial development. So permit fees gives me hope because it does have a good month from time to time. On real estate excise tax, this one, it's coming in better than prior year. It's still unfavorable to budget. It's not as bad as it was last year, and we still have hope. And looking at month to month, why, this current month was not that great. However, cumulatively, that's how well we're doing better than the previous year's first 4 months. Lodging tax is not particularly noteworthy. It's up $900 over budget, and the scale is 300,000, and we think it's going to come in more. The big story there is it's recovered from the pandemic and then some, even though we lost 3 hotels. I just enjoy telling that story. Interest revenue is underperforming this year, and that's because the first several months we went through a lot of cash. Part of it was on interest. I'm sorry. Part of it was on insurance premiums, but also we've had some capital spending outside of the M&O facility, so that's been hurting our interest.
Can you go back to that real quick?
Yes.
What is the estimated shortfall? Because you're not going to make that up. So what is the estimated shortfall that we're going to probably see at this trajectory?
No, I do think it can come back because the pace of, when you pass a balanced budget, you've got your expenses and your revenues capped. So I think we spent a lot of our cash during the beginning of the year. I think during the later of the year, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Because if we already spent the money, that money is, you're not going to, I don't feel that we're going to bring enough money to cover that, and plus you lost the time with the compounding interest that you're going to create with the money that's no longer there.
Yeah, but then also interest rates haven't fallen the way that I budgeted it. You could be right. You absolutely could be. I appreciate your skepticism.
I'm good for that one.
Yeah,
Well,
yep,
Going back to that a second.
sure.
So in order to make up 16% at where we are now, how many more, every month, how much money do we have turning over? Is it a couple million?
1 to 3.
I mean, like, you're buying bonds, new ones.
Yeah, our investable portfolio is 70 million, and it's.
Right, but we have, June, July, we only have 7 more months, right?
Yeah, but remember, we're also going to get our property tax in April and May and October and November. So we get some spikes of cash there. There's some seasonality to it.
But I guess the question is, right now, is all the money reinvesting at 2%, or is it
4.
3? It's just
4%.
So you're not really making any more because it's about 4 now, so.
Yep. Yeah.
How would you, there's no way you're gonna make that up if you're not getting higher interest rates.
No, it has to come from cash balances coming in.
So you're saying you'll be able to put more money aside?
You're gonna invest
No,
more?
well, I mean, we're doing every penny. We watch it pretty closely.
Maybe I'm missing something, but if you're invested at, call it 4, and you're only getting 4, you gotta get higher than 4 with the amount of money coming in to make up, although it's only at 230.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to make it on rate. I think we're going to make it on on the seasonal cash balances, I think.
Okay. Thanks.
I'll show it to
What,
you.
what was part of that, you said that you thought that interest rates would be dropping more than what they have. Is that part of the?
We did budget thinking that interest rates were going to fall, and they haven't fallen as much.
Okay,
That difference isn't much,
Okay.
yeah. And we are watching interest rates. Here's what the Federal Reserve has been doing. They have not dropped rates since December 2024. They've held them level. So on the investment side, that helps us. I will tell you that I need to disclose we had a rating change. All of the U.S. Treasuries that we hold and everybody holds, Moody's dropped the rating on the U.S. Treasury. They fell into line with Fitch and S&P. And you ask, where do we own U.S. Treasuries? We own a lot. We do have direct purchases, and also our money in the state pool, 28% of what's in the state pool is Treasuries. And on the rating scale.
But on the state pool, we're getting next to nothing.
No, we get about 4% on that as well.
I thought it was like really, really small.
It used to be. Right now, it's a decent rate.
Okay.
Now, their average, where I'm buying 5-year maturities and locking them in for 5 years, they buy 60-day stuff. So when rates do drop, that will go down.
Okay.
Yeah. And all of our investing holdings, this is just a little chart. It's got the rating scale on the left, and all of our holdings, U.S. Treasury, Federal Farm Credit Bank, Federal Home Loan, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Tennessee Valley. And then we also have a slice of a corporate. We own a slice of Apple. And right now, what's rated higher than the U.S. government? Federal Farm Credit Bank and Apple, which is a corporation. We're a long way from the blue line and the red line, which is what our policy will permit and what you consider junk bonds. So they only lowered it one little notch. However, it's a disclosable event, so I tell you about it. We had 2 maturities during April, and we did a purchase. Here's an example where we bought something a long time ago at 2.7%, a little bit more recently at 5%, and then what are we reinvesting at? 4.0. I think it was 4.06. I can tell you, I was going to have David present part of this. However, he's back at his desk right now working on our audit. We delivered the budget amendment. We worked on that for a month trying to figure that one out. We have been supporting Farmers Market on their Mondays when they do their banking and accounting and their cash counts. They open all the vendor envelopes. We've got full staff. We've got 3 people that are fairly new, and they're onboarding, and so we're going through a steep learning curve. Our audit is due this Friday to the state auditor's office. So I've got, David and 3 of the analysts have been working most Saturdays, and David just worked all weekend, and So we have not made progress on the Eden financial system, but this is what's keeping us busy. This is what's taken our bandwidth and then some. So I'll just bring you up to speed on what's happening in finance. That's my report.
I'm not seeing a whole lot of lights tonight, so it looks like it might be light questions. Only question I have is, what is your overall feeling with the economy, what we have going on, cash flow wise? There is, let me just make sure I understand this, there is no money that sits in the bank account that has not been spoken for. Is that correct?
Say it again?
There is no money that sits in the city
Oh.
bank accounts that has not been spoken for.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we talk about the 70 million, it's not $70 million to play with. It is
No, that's
all
our-
spoken for.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, and that understanding, what is your, like I said, what is your professional feeling moving forward and what we're currently at? And I know we did speak a while back at maybe some position holds and pausing on some of that stuff. Is there anything that you can inform us on what the city's stance is going to be, or at least your personal opinion?
There are several things that we're watching, things like jail cost, and then overtime versus vacancies, the vehicles that we paused when we balanced the budget. That's why I'm looking at revenue every single month, and you're in line with what I'm worried about as well. You know, will the revenues come in as we projected, and if not, do we have compensating ways to shift? It was tough to come up with a game plan to cover the collective bargaining agreements.
Gotcha. And then I guess what about we had talked about staffing in the last FedRAC meeting on maybe putting a pause on that. Do you know what's the status of that?
I've had conversations with both the mayor and the city administrator on how we're doing monthly. I don't want to, I want to be really careful when we use words like that, because, yeah, those are tools, those are levers that you can push. And so far, as you can see, our permit revenue ticked up. REIT is above last year. Utility tax revenue is up. Sales tax is still the big one. Sales tax is the one to watch. How are the businesses doing? I'm sure you've seen that there's been a couple stores that have closed. Rite Aid on Pacific Highway and Safeway over in Twin Lakes. Now, with those kind of stores, I think people still are going to go grocery shop. They're just going to go shift to QFC or Fred Meyer's or the other Safeway. Pape Kenilworth just opened. That is a potential sales tax uptick. I don't really know what to expect on that one, so we didn't budget for that. That would be a plus. So watching sales tax for me is still the one to watch.
Gotcha. And you did make some updates to the sheet. I appreciate that, to see a little bit more detail, so I'll keep a track on that one. And then my last question will be is vehicles. There was a lot of money in the budget for vehicles. Is that one of the items where, if necessary, they can be pushed off on purchases for?
Both in Public Works and PD, we deferred 2 vehicles per year, and that's something that I would really like to see us, that's like an existing obligation that we're not taking care of, yeah.
Okay. I don't see anything else on that, so if I can get a motion, please.
Okay, I move to forward the April 2025 monthly financial report to the June 3rd, 2025 consent agenda.
I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, we move on to the other part of the meeting. Is there any comments or concerns from anybody up here? I do not see anybody here, so I will let everybody know the next meeting will be June 24th, 2025. And for that, I will close the committee. We are adjourned.